Today is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. We don't have any postponements this afternoon, but we do have a regular member who is absent, which is Mr. Yeski, and Mary Jenkins will be seated for him on the first application. The rest of the applications are non-voting, so there are no seatings. And so with that, Patrick, did you have any announcements or anything?
No, there's no changes to the agenda, Madam Chair, so no.
Or any new bots that are sending emails and
Oh, yes, if the Planning and Zoning Commission, or the department, I should say, does not send bills or invoices after the fact, and most certainly does not ask you to wire money for payment. So if you do receive any, uh, please ignore, or if you're concerned, you can always contact the department or myself, and we can help you sort it out. But immediately, do not assume immediately that it is not a real bill, and we will address it later on.
okie dokie. And with that, we'll begin. Thank you. And with
Thank
that,
you.
we'll go to our first item, which is on the regular meeting agenda. It is Sabine Doverton LLC for a final site plan for proposed construction of a residence, carriage house, green porch, patio, and amenities. I'll just stop there on a 20.54 acre property at 45 Doverton Lane in the RA2 zone. This it's in the it's in the agenda, but I'm just going to say it again. This was part of a subdivision approved in 2013. And at the time that the subdivision was approved, at development, the commission required that any project being proposed on this subdivision would come before us due to the environmental sensitivity of the land involved in the subdivision. And I believe that the decision we made in 2013 is part of the public record now. You inserted it, Patrick. And so with that, Mr. Hegney, we'll go to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members of the commission. For the record, Tom Hegney on behalf of the applicant. As you indicated, Madam Chair, this was a subdivision in 2013. It's a 58-acre parcel. And this lot is lot number 3 because there are only 3 lots in the
Right.
subdivision.
And before that, it's worth noting that before that, it was a much bigger number of lots that would have gone forward before the 2013 subdivision. It went down to 3 lots in 2013.
And that was really to recognize that there are environmentally sensitive areas. There are 44 acres of open space, and most of this lot is also in conservation easement to protect it further. It's if we could bring up one of the slides, the presentation material, because I want to show you what was approved back in 2013. The development was quite a bit more extensive than what we're proposing now. It was a house about twice the size. It had a pool, another pool house, a stable, paddocks, and the drainage was in an area about 1,000 feet from the house that was in an area that would allow for better drainage than what's right around the house itself. So if we could go to slide 3, please. That's it. Oh, that's no. Maybe
green one.
Maybe I miscounted. This is what was part of the plan that was approved as part of the subdivision in 2013. You can see the house, the pool house. To the left is the stable with paddocks, and to the bottom is an area where the drainage was supposed to be located along with the septic from the main house, because the main house occupied so much of the development area in that portion of the lot. If we can go to slide 6 now. This shows the, this is best. Yeah, that's the best one. Thanks. This shows what we're proposing now. You can see the house is much smaller. It's more compact. This has allowed us to locate the septic and the drainage within that area surrounding the house rather than running it down where you see the dashed lines in the lower left-hand portion of the property, which avoids having to run drainage and sewer lines, septic lines down there. But one of the things we do have to do was brought up at the briefing yesterday is that we have to bring in fill because of the ledge, and that's required as part of the drainage manual. We have gone to DPW, and they've approved this for a building permit. We've been to wetlands, and they have approved this as well, along with the work that needs to be done to get from Doverton Drive to the house location, which is again about this 700 or 800 feet of driveway that needs to be installed. There was a question on the coverage that's associated with this development. Out of the 29,000 square feet of coverage, a third of it is the driveway itself to get from Doverton to the house location. In terms of green space, you have to have 78% in the RA2 zone. This is 97.2% of green space. So this is a much more compact and efficient development of the site than what was proposed in 2013. My clients are very interested in preserving the site as it is. I know there were comments from conservation that came in just as part of the staff report. I talked to Bill Kenny about it because when I go down the list of things, he said, you know, a number of these, half of them are just perennial plants that you have in the garden around your house. And he said, our client specifically asked for peonies. And the conservation staff is, well, not peonies, but have butterfly weed instead. And I think that's a bit much. And my client really would like to have the peonies. We're happy to meet with the conservation staff and go over this. Bill Kenny has some other ideas in terms of what could be substituted rather than what they're suggesting. He also pointed out that none of the plants that he had in his list are invasive. So although they may be
Non-native.
cultivars and not native, that they are not invasive. We did finally get the volume calculations. I didn't ask the architect to do that early on because when you have 7,800 square feet of building area, generally you're not bumping up against the 150,000 cubic feet. But we did have them do that, and we submitted that to staff today, and it's 133,288
you were
cubic
close
feet.
enough that next time you'll know to ask it around that height.
Yeah,
I know
usually
it's surprising.
Usually
I
it's
know.
about 9 to 10,000.
I know
that
it's our ball. It's interesting. It's our ballpark too. We all say, well, because the easy math is 10,000 square feet times 15-foot ceilings kind of thing is going to give you 150,000 cubes. And we all kind of do that and go somewhere in that vicinity, you're surely going to hit it. But it's interesting because your first answer to us was, I can't believe that 8,000 square feet, and yet you're surprisingly close. So they have high ceilings, and that's just the trigger. Okay,
Right.
so you're not hitting the 150. Question for you. The riding trail changes. We spent a lot of time on it because it's in the decision letter for the subdivision originally. Could you clarify for us what is happening with the riding trails that Gerda had approved and whether Gerda has seen these changes?
The riding trails that are that they have as of a right to use go through the open space parcels, the 44 acres. But that does not carry over to the lots themselves. And although there are a number that go through this parcel, that's not something that they have a right to. When we were purchasing this back in 2020, I went over that with Bruce Cohen, who was representing the seller, and had handled the subdivision back in 2013. And it was clear that this is not, they're not entitled to have riding trails through my client's
So,
lot.
but it's interesting because I think it was Nick, was it you picked up, or maybe it was Ann Knoll. One of you guys picked up that that they're being blocked, existing trails are being blocked. And yet our subdivision letter says that that's not going to happen. So that's kind of, can you clarify that?
The one that was being blocked is one that actually goes through this property that you have on the screen now, not through the open space parcel, which is immediately above it, and is part, that's the 27-acre part of the open space.
Yeah, but the subdivision letter, unless I misunderstood, it says that it doesn't call out that the lots are not going to have trails going through it. Do you
No,
have,
but that, you know,
go ahead. My
some
question
owners
is,
of
does somebody
property
have, does
are,
somebody have the approved, when we approve the subdivision, and Patrick, do we have,
Yeah, I'm looking
well,
for it right now.
okay,
Thought it was in
I
there.
what
think
was-
if you go to,
hold on.
I think it is shown on one of the maps that we have.
In the original subdivision, it shows the trails. And then Gerda signed off on those trails. And the question is, Mr. Hegney, are you consistent with what that sign off was?
Yeah, I think if you, short answer, yes. If you go back to slide 3, showing the original development plan, you can see the riding trails as they go through. And these are the ones that were, no, it's
the one.
this one here.
It's the green one.
The colored one, yeah.
The
And you can
habitat
see
enhancement.
the, what color would they be? Sort of a
Beige,
orange or beige.
but the ones that go
Um,
through the subject property aren't shown, even though they're on the existing survey, existing condition survey. I think that's where
Right.
it showed up for me specifically. The existing conditions survey show the riding trails going everywhere through the site, through the building, so on and so forth, a lot of different things. The question I had is twofold. One, I can't find it enough. We'll keep looking for it. Is what did this original subdivision decision say in 2013? And has Riding Trails looked at this to say, yes, they're still on board with it not going through there? I think
Well,
it would
I
be kind
read
of a
you the
critical.
paragraph yesterday about the riding trails, but it doesn't say there's no trails going through. At the briefing yesterday, I was reading you what it said, and it doesn't say they're not going to go through any of the lots. So it's an odd omission. Peter Lowe, do you want to comment on this? I think you're the only one with and one other. Who's the other person with their hand up?
Yes,
Brett Halsworth.
just a-
Okay, I'll let you in. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter Lowe.
I am not knowledgeable in this area, surprise, like so many other areas. But I thought that these riding trails that are somewhat pervasive in our backcountry, as it were, that there is either some common understanding or, if not a formal, there's an informal agreement with land and property owners about that. Could somebody explain what the current situation is, and or is this just an agreement on a parcel by parcel basis, or is this the Riding Trail Association have hard and fast rules about this? Does anybody know?
Well-
This is sad. I mean, thus Patrick remembers, I only remember the discussion from 2013, points of it where we did discuss the trails. but I don't remember the detail. And we haven't had, I think we've only had one other application that had riding trails since then, and I don't remember. Patrick?
So I will just say town-wide, it's a mixed bag. There are some areas where they've codified the agreement, and other areas they just exist, whether it's through land trust or other open space parcels or whatever, that they've just been there, and they're ad hoc or whatever you want to call it. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's consistent to have them deeded out or titled out that they're they're in perpetuity or whatever. A lot of it has been over time, and we've moved a few. I think another one not related to this, but not terribly far away, was over on King Street when we did that subdivision of cluster development that we did north of the old Gimbel's Estate, Chieftains. There was a riding trail through an open space parcel there, and if you recall, the applicant was concerned that the trail had sort of migrated over onto their property, and we had it surveyed, and it was fixed, because I wasn't on the proper lot. It was the applicant thought it was there on theirs, and it wasn't. So when we have them, we do try to get them surveyed, but it seems this
So-
property
So
is
is
So-
the situation on an individual basis that has to be negotiated between owner
That's what
and?
Patrick just said.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's generally what it is. I mean,
I'm trying to summarize it.
Yeah,
so I
Yeah,
gave
I
yeah,
you-
think
no,
that's what he was
it's
saying. I think
far
you're
less
right.
words than I used. Yes, thank you.
Yes, in less words. Now, so while everybody's taking a breath, the paragraph that I was reading, Nick, yesterday in our decision letter says, whereas the proposed re-subdivision map submitted shows the existing and relocated riding trails which exist on the subject land. Said trails are typically 5 feet in width. The Greenwich Riding and Trails Association, GERDA, approves of the proposed trail modifications which maintain key linkages within the trail system and has agreed to maintain the trails as shown on the proposed map. Well, we don't have the proposed map. That I couldn't find it, neither could Nick.
Well, it's
So-
also doesn't,
Actually-
it seems to
Oh,
be.
did you
so-
find it? And no,
I-
hold on a second.
Yes, so the map that was put into the file, I guess, when the decision letter
Yeah.
from 2013.
Where
That
is it?
map, actually, it's in the OneDrive. It's under
I'm in the OneDrive.
2013. Go into and then under the 2013 subdivision info, and then the
Okay, I'm
first spot,
looking at, it's the GLR 8745?
Got it.
and
yeah,
it
mhm.
shows on there. It shows where they were. It shows proposed new trails, and it shows where they were proposing to remove them. So it does look like it cuts off at from this plan, what cuts off at the top, and then there's that one trail that goes along the bottom that is retained. If I'm reading this this re-subdivision map correctly, that this was recorded in 2000 in
Existing trail to be
2008.
retained, removed or relocated at the
Right.
discretion of future lot owner.
right.
But that's lot 2 and we're on lot 3, so hold on.
The-
On
the-
lot
These are
three-
lots 1 and 2. It's
Those are
page 2
open
of this
space.
map.
So scroll down, Patrick, because it's your next page, because that
Right.
wasn't the right lot. And
that-
now you go to lot 3. This is lot 3. And it says
Yeah, this is
existing
it.
trail to be retained, removed, or relocated at the discretion of future lot owner. It says the same thing.
And that's the location where the cursor is of the proposed house.
But see, my question to you is then, Mr. Hegney, it has an existing trail, but then see right below it, it has a proposed 5-foot wide trail right below that. And that's not on your site plan. And yet it was proposed in the subdivision. Am I wrong? It's in the right-hand corner, for example,
That's
of
right, I
this.
think do.
I don't
Do
think
you
I
see
don't
what
think
I
it's
mean?
shown, Madam Chair, is the issue. I think
Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in.
sure.
Well, it should show it when we approve the site plan.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I
there it is.
Okay, so see, it
Right,
says
right there, right along the
proposed-
border.
Okay, but that's not showing on your site plan right now.
It
Yeah.
is,
Hold on.
I guess we didn't show it.
Mr. Hegney, this is the area I think where the note about boulders to end the trail is, in somewhere in the map.
I think it's up in the northwest
Near
corner.
the vernal pool. It's near that vernal pool that's to the north, right there. Yeah, it's just up in there. There were boulders somewhere put in.
By the way, nice work, Ann Nolfer, because I saw the coding on this, the 8745, and I didn't even connect that it was the riding trails.
Tracy, can you put the site plan up? I'm sorry, I don't have it open. And I'll
Oh,
take it down.
I should really get to the point where okay.
Perhaps our engineer for the project, Brett Holsworth, whose firm has been handling
Well,
this
I
for
think
many years,
Tracy's, well,
can
I think Tracy can stand for
clarify it for you.
presentation. Okay, and then zoom at the areas we're talking about.
But to my general question about, are there any rights on the?
No.
There are no rights.
You know,
Correct.
Not
I think,
retained.
yeah,
No,
it's
never.
not, it is.
Well, I didn't finish my sentence. There are no rights for the trail association, and there are no rights for the property owners?
Well, Mr. Hegney is saying that the property owner retains the right to do whatever they want, but not if part of the approved subdivision shows a trail as staying. Okay, so a trail that says it can be removed at the discretion of the property owner, good and well, but one that is supposed to remain in place has to stay because that's what's,
So
it's
the
in the
assumption is
subdivision.
the assumption
map.
is that there has to be an articulated
Yeah,
phrase in whatever the original document was that as Mr. Hegney
not so
saying,
much
this
of
one.
phrase. What we just looked at, which was the map, the site plan that was the theoretical, you know, that was what was filed at the time of subdivision and said that the proposed trail that laid out the proposed trail, that was filed in the town record. So that becomes a legally binding
Oh.
subdivision record.
Madam Chair, if I could just clarify that. The declaration that was filed with the for the open space parcels does refer to maintaining the trails through the open space. There
Mhm.
is no agreement or right contained in my client's title for trails to go through this particular lot or the other two
Okay,
for that matter.
but the approved subdivision shows a proposed trail in your approved subdivision map. It shows a proposed trail that would go through that southern portion. So I don't know how one legally, oh, and Patrick's got his hand up. Yes, Patrick?
Well, you were saying what I was going to say, Madam Chair, except for the fact that the signed Mylar for the
Mhm.
subdivision
Exactly.
has these instructions in it. So I don't know.
That's binding on the future owners because then it goes, because it's been filed in the town record. So even though your deed may not show a restriction, the Mylar of the property that was filed and signed by, that would have been Mr. Heller, I believe.
Yes, actually, it was Mr. Maitland in this regard, but it may have been it
Yeah,
is
'cause he
role as
was- yeah.
secretary.
So,
But-
you would have to follow what was approved.
Well, except for the fact that it says existing trail to be retained, removed, or relocated at the
That's the
discretion
first
of the
one.
future
Tracy,
owner.
No, that's not the one we're talking about. There's a proposed trail at the bottom of the lot. Can you flip back to that, Tracy? I'm
I got it.
sorry.
Madam,
Okay.
before we move on, I think.
Hold on, we're not moving on. We're just
Okay.
finishing this discussion.
Well, I have
See where
something
it
to add
says
to the discussion.
proposed 5 foot wide trail? That you are required to keep because it's in your Mylar. Proposed trail, you are required to keep that one.
Yeah, so there's an existing trail to remain, and then it connects to this section here, which appears to be proposed, and then connecting back to existing, and then yeah, Mr. Hegney, you're absolutely right. The majority of the internal trails are noted to
Yeah,
be,
all of those.
yeah,
But not the bottom one.
yeah. It seems this. I don't know. Is this south on the page or?
I'm saying south because someone else said south.
Yes,
No,
south,
it-
yes, that's south on the
It
page.
is, it is
So,
south.
yeah, so
South
it's
is
this-
usually the
it's this
bottom, so
southern
I wing it.
border here that there should be a contiguous trail
Yeah.
going east-west or west-east, whatever.
And that
Now-
links the two open space parcels.
Okay, so
Right.
now,
Yeah, thank you.
given that we've got that one, the other thing, what I would suggest on the landscaping is that you do this. Jackie did this. And she did the staff report.
Mhm.
What I would suggest is that she look at the landscaping plan, and I would normally say we could make this a condition, except given the fact that in 2013, everybody thought this was so sensitive. So could we have Jackie look at the proposed landscaping plan, what conservation's asking for, and Jackie can figure out peonies or non-peonies, and she can work out something that is a compromise between the owner and conservation's optimum situation. Does that work for you?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, and then, shoot, the thought just left me. So
I have a
Nick,
thought.
you wanted to build,
Yes.
go, you wanted to build and, go ahead.
Mr. Hegney, I think what I'd like to see, would have the ZLS be updated with the existing riding trails that go throughout the site, even under the building, and have notes to the record of which ones get abandoned and the location of anything that indicates the abandonment, the sunken boulders, so on and so forth. That way, we do have a record of this going forward. It follows suit from the original subdivision in 2013 through our site development to the future. That way, there's no question as
Great
to what's
idea.
going on. You know, it's the existing trail note that Mr. Allura was talking about. Now we know exactly what's going on in perpetuity with the trails. And that way, if anybody at Riding Trails has any issues, then there's the map to show that. So it'd be the ones that are going to be abandoned and where they stop and how they
Mhm.
stop. And then the new one or the existing one that runs along the southern edge to connect the two spaces, that would be an existing one being retained. Right, that's correct? Right.
Okay, now next thing, Nick, you touched on this yesterday, and I believe so did Mr. Wells. By the way, great work, Madam Jones. The next question was the perviousness, maintaining the perviousness of the driveways. You had a concern about that? You guys, one of you did.
I
Yeah, it was
brought
Peter.
it up Because
Peter, okay,
there's no
different glasses.
originality here. It came right out of the conservation, or I think it was conservation's narrative. The suitability of the long-term permeability, if you will. And this has to do with, I guess it has to do with both the driveway and the court. But
Right.
the court is one, I think that, is the driveway going to be impervious, Mr. Agnew?
Some of it will be, most of it
So-
will be, I guess. In fact, my client is building a timber bridge to eliminate a culvert and additional fill through that at
beautiful.
a very great expense.
So that they're gonna
Which
make
is
it
something that we
beautiful.
worked out with wetlands.
So
Um,
Mr. Holsworth, he knows, I'm sorry, Mr. Higney. Mr. Holsworth,
right.
the discussion yesterday was everybody recognizes that the problem with pervious surfaces is the maintenance. So maybe what we just need to add to it to make everybody happy is some sort of maintenance agreement or some more fine tuning of that. Is that what the concern was? And then, and then we'll go back to Nick and then, wait, somebody lowered their hand. Mary, you had
Yeah.
your hand up and it slid back down?
Yeah, that was intentional this time.
Okay. Nick and then Tracy.
Mr. Hegney, is Mr. Hallsworth for you?
Yes, right there.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Brett-
He's
Brett's
in the
here,
bottom of the,
and
oh,
he
he's
did,
on my bottom.
I just to steal his thunder, he did amend it yesterday. I did forward it to staff to
Yeah.
show how the pervious pavement would be
Yeah,
would be maintained. There is also a maintenance declaration that has to be recorded prior to getting a certificate of occupancy on any property that has a drainage system. And I can tell you that I am now putting in my rider when I represent a buyer that you have to show me that you've gone to your engineer and they have been maintaining it. And that's going to become very common because I've seen it in other contracts that where I'm representing the seller. And people say, you have to show me that you're doing this. And sometimes you have to bring the engineer on and they have to do some maintenance and they have to clean out catch basins and that kind of thing. And they have to show that it's being maintained because that's part of the schedule that's attached to the drainage declaration. So it's not just that the town needs to have staff to enforce this, that it is now happening as part of transactions.
But but the problem is it's so hard for people to remember that they have to do stuff. Nick and then Tracy.
Mr. Holsworth, tell me about the timber bridges. You've got two, kind of, one's going actually over an honest to God water course, and the other one is basically like a swale.
Yeah, sure. For the record, my name is Brett Holsworth. I'm a
Hey, you
professional
don't
engineer.
even have to worry. It's not a public hearing. We got no recording.
I'm just so used to it. I'm sorry. Yeah, so just going back real quick, we did add a pervious pavement section of the owner's manual and operation, and it does need to get inspected every 5 years by a professional license. We have seen that. We've installed systems 5-6 years ago, and we have come back and had work needed to be done. So it is part of the record, and they need to vacuum it after construction and maintain it. So that is part of their system. So yeah, Nick, the timber bridges, that was a concession from our wetlands discussion. We originally, as part of the subdivision, it was approved as a filling with walls and culverts. Wetlands wanted something that shows less impact direct into the wetlands, and we came up with a system where it's timber bridges, basically poles, utility poles the size of utility poles getting hammered in, and then they build the bridge section by section, where you're just driving on top of the new bridge and you're not really in the wetlands digging and digging up the wetlands. So it's less invasive, it's costs more, and it takes more time to construct. But that was the arrangement. It's not fully, we're working with the bridge builders that they come from South Carolina, and they do these all over the country. But it works well. And
Okay, I think and this is from past experience with a very long driveway snaking in and out of coastal areas, wetlands, that kind of stuff. I understand that and can appreciate wanting to go over the wetlands as opposed to under it, over it, dig it out, so on and so forth. The one concern I would have is that when you say timber bridge on piers and pilings, my first question would be, can it support the weight of a fire apparatus? And I think actually, rather than get stuck,
Oh, Nick.
get
good
stuck
take.
on this,
Yeah,
like we had before at a couple of different things.
yeah.
If we can get some kind of document or something from the bridge company, stating how much the weight these bridges can handle, so we're comfortable with this.
sure.
I hate to see this, and actually, I'm thinking actually something that goes back to like Round Hill, or not Round Hill, Bellhaven, tiny little bridge over a little causeway, so on and so forth. It was like, yeah, that's going to be a nightmare. Nobody's going to be able to get to this thing. So I need something from them, sign and seal, that it can support the weight of something. That way we can compare it to one of the apparatus.
Sure.
It may not be Tower 1, but again, if can I get a pumper up there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's the intent. And, the fact that it's such a long driveway, we want to make sure that there could be trucks, obviously, emergency vehicles are very important, but, deliveries and garbage trucks and, moving trucks, all that stuff, we want it to be, as close as highway rated as possible for.
Right. I would say if you can get a filled tanker down there. Amazon truck's not a big deal.
Yeah.
No, it's just.
No, not
nowadays they're
Amazon. I'm
smaller.
thinking moving truck like a
Yeah,
semi
you're
kind of
thinking
thing.
about a semi.
But
Oh,
yeah,
if you get a semi down there, call me. I want to watch
I
that. That
don't
would-
think, I'm not sure, Brett, you're gonna do a semi, to be honest with you, and I wouldn't even try. Because
No.
worst case, they can pay extra to have somebody lighter it.
no,
you
but
know, but
fire trucks for sure.
Fire trucks, so
engines.
take a look at that.
Yeah.
Tracy's had her hand up for a while, you guys, and I value her wisdom. I'm sure that everybody does. So Tracy, now don't say anything bad.
I'll just be quick because Brett covered the vast chunk of it. It is the maintenance of pervious pavement is covered in the maintenance documents
Okay.
that are filed. DPW also has, and I've seen it and used it myself with coastal site plan, admin coastal site plans. There's language where they require a certification letter before CO from the engineer that it was installed as it was supposed to be, and they use the pavers that they were supposed to, and that they're in fact porous, and that they're part of the drainage system, so that everybody understands that they're needed, because that's the drainage system doesn't work unless it's porous.
Okay. Mr. Wells,
Yeah, two questions. There was some comment in the staff report about guest house versus accessory building. Maybe Mr. Hagney, can you describe the use of the guest house?
Yes, and
What the purpose of it?
we submitted a sketch from the architect after I saw the comment in the staff report to indicate that it's specifically a wet bar. So this is being used as a guest house and not as a dwelling, and therefore it doesn't need to meet the setbacks in 6-146.
Great, thank you. And then for Mr. Halsworth, if you could describe a little bit more the drainage. I understand there are 3 rain gardens. Does any treated water from this property end up in the streams that are passing through, or is all the water runoff from the house and improvements stay within the property?
Yeah, so there are several vernal pools existing on the property, with drainage corridors. We're collecting and treating pretty much all of the new impervious coverage, which is the driveway, the motor courts, and the house and patios, and they go into our drainage system. It's basically 2 systems. The permeable pavers motor court is system 1, and system 2 is a large infiltration system in the back. All the water goes in through those systems, and then eventually gets treated, and whatever's left over gets discharged towards the vernal pools and the water systems.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
okay. Let's turn to the public for comment, if that's okay. Does anybody from the public wish to comment on 45 Doverton? 45 Doverton, anybody from the public? No. All right, seems to me like we're leaving this open. Does anybody disagree with that? Nick, did you
No,
get to ask? all
I
your-
think because I think it's the riding trails. We could dispense with that forever. And
Yeah,
I
no,
think just,
well, Mr.
under-
Hagney has agreed, I think, to give us
Yeah.
a new site plan.
and I think I just want to make sure about
Oh.
the bridges issue. So
Yeah,
that's
and the
those
bridge
2,
issue.
that's the big thing for
And
me.
you had another driveway issue yesterday that I can't remember. Do you remember what it was? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, and then the other thing is this gives Mr. Kenny, who had his hand up for a while, but it gives Mr. Kenny an opportunity to work through the landscape plan with Jackie, and they can land on something that is both environmentally sensitive as well as allowing the owner to have, and that would be Jackie's instructions. Allow the owner to have a flower garden that they want, but at the same time, encourage the sustainability wherever else. So because you do want, if people love a certain flower, they it's nice if they can have it. I mean, they don't build themselves a beautiful property, they don't build a beautiful house on 20 acres to not have any of the flowers they like. So, we have to find a way of compromising, and what I'd like Mr. Kenny to work just with Jackie, and she can interface with conservation. Okay, so Mr. Hegney, we will see you. Mr. Holsworth, you look like something's on your mind. No? Okay, you just look like you were thinking about something if you wanted to
Nope,
throw
nope,
something.
all set. Thanks.
All righty. Okay, so we'll see you when you've got it all ready. And I mean, I guess your clients could always amend the previous subdivision. That's possible, right? They could re-subdivide. They could change this property and change the Mylar. They could file
Well,
a
it
subdivision.
was a re-subdivision when this lot was created,
No, no,
so
but
there's
I'm
nothing that you
saying,
can't do
yeah, so you could
by
always.
coming back.
Yeah, and then we would just go to Gerda and talk to them. All right, okay, Mr. Hegney, so we'll see you when you come back. Or later on this afternoon.
He's on the next.
Or next.
Or next, oh, that's right, you've got the next one too. Okay, so Mr. Holsworth is probably not doing this one, right?
Nope,
He
thank
is
you.
not.
All right, so now we're
Right.
gonna move to our discussion items, and we're gonna start with 267 Greenwich Avenue Associates LLC to discuss the proposed facade restoration. I'm gonna do a quick recap because these are discussion items and we're not gonna dig down as deep. The saga of this is that this is the Knapp Funeral Home. At the time that the commission reviewed it, we were a little torn. There were some of us who loved the Gothic stuff. And then there were people who agreed that it was wiser to go back to the 1906 original facade, and also felt very much that it was more supportive of the commercial use of the proposed retail and commercial use. Mr. Hegney then went on to talk to the ARC, who apparently wanted to have some reference to the Gothic, and also, from what Nick finds, misunderstood a sentence about the color of the brick. So our question is, so they're back to us because they've been back and forth because they've been ping-ponged. So here it is. And based on the fact that the HDC supported the 1906 facade, as well as we finding it consistent with the avenue and with commerce, I would humbly suggest to all of you that we allow them to do that and stick with the 1906 proposal. Does anybody have different thoughts? All right, then on this thing with the brick color, Mr. Hegney, well, Nick, you said that this was something that was in your comments that had been not quite right. So do you
Yes.
want to go ahead?
Patrick or Tracy, can you bring up page 17 of the staff report? This is Mr. Rydberg's drawings. That's a great photograph of the facade, which will,
And
you know-
Rudy, put your hand back up because I don't see you. And if you raise your hand again, yeah, we'll get you in.
so the Gothic applique at the storefront will be removed completely and then restored with a masonry. I think it's a cast facade that's going to be similar to what was there originally built back in 1906. The unfortunate situation, I guess there was an addition or some work done to the building on the upper elevation, specifically the third floor, where we have two different color bricks. I distinctly remember in our discussions at the time, yeah, perfect, you can see it. We had talked about actually what would happen when you remove the Gothic appliques there and restore that. And I think the suggestion was, why don't we go ahead and suggest that they use a good masonry paint and paint the brick of the facade so it's actually one color, similar to what's out there. And then the new work would actually blend in and work with this new storefront. I thought our decision was sent to ARC with that specific, please take a look at lighting, signage, awnings, which they usually do, and specifically the hue of the color chosen by the applicant to paint the brick, just to make sure it wasn't too light, too dark, so on and so forth. I guess that may have been where there may have been some kind of miscommunication. But as you can see in the picture in front of us, two different color bricks, looks kind of out of place, but this can be resolved with the new building. I think actually maybe come down to us. I think we're okay with the storefront, the way it's proposed. It's what color is that brick going to be? To me, either color works. It just has to be one or the other.
Right.
The windows wouldn't be painted, the lintels, the sills wouldn't be painted. It's just that brick.
So question, I forgot to go back and find the HDC notes. What did HDC say about the two colors?
I don't believe they addressed it.
They were not, they were more of the preservation mind to keep the building with its current facade, and that's where the discussion and the decision of the commission.
Yeah, I know. So they're gonna be mad at us again. Okay.
Well, I'm good with that.
Might I be bold and interject and send you the rendering that was done? I'm not sure why it's not on the screen. Can I share the screen?
It's actually slide 3 and 4, two different perspectives
Slide 3 and 4 of a presentation.
of the presentation material. Yep.
Oh, I don't think I have that. Hold on a second. No, I don't think I have that.
Here it is.
Gross.
Excellent. There you go. Good, Tom.
That's slide 3.
And slide 4 is just a little different perspective on it, where it
Miss
widens
Cooley-
out a bit.
Tracy, that's actually in the OneDrive still?
Yep, it's right up in the OneDrive. Yes.
Those are
You
different
get to
colors?
see it compared to the two buildings on either side.
Those are different color, paint colors?
No, it's just that it's turning the
It's just
picture.
one's closer
from
than the other.
where-
That's all.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I was like, that's
that's it.
not two different colors. Okay.
It is not.
It looks like a taupe if I had to pick one color to call it.
Oh, my favorite color. Yeah, I hate having to do these things because I don't like, one person's taste is not another. That's why I like the HDC and ARC to do this because they have the background. All right. So Mr. Ritberg, this is what you want to do.
It is
Um,
exactly the color of the brick that's there now.
Which,
Uh-huh.
And
the upper
we
or
will get
lower? The
McDermott's
lower.
to do that.
Okay.
Pardon me?
Upper
Lower.
or lower?
The lower.
No, the lower.
Okay.
And that existing facade up top is exactly the same colors that are there now, so they all kind of match.
Okay, so the color represented here on the rendering is the lower facade brick plus or minus a tick or two?
Exactly.
Okay, and then all of the dentals and everything up above would be painted as well as per the rendering?
They exist now. We're just going to refresh the coat of paint.
Right, okay.
And we can't have those cute awnings, huh? Just kidding. Right.
Okay, I would say, but then this is up to everybody else, I think actually, I would like to see the color,
Okay.
but I think it's up to, as a group, because, I want to make sure that everybody's in on
Yeah,
this.
I agree with you, Nick. If we're gonna do this, Rudy, could you drop off a sample with Patrick or Tracy
Sure.
of the color? Just give us some
Mhm.
kind of paint board.
Yep.
And then Patrick, and then the commissioner is just gonna drift in and take a look at it whenever we get a chance,
Sure.
within a 1 week or window, and
Yep.
we'll just take a look.
We will do that.
Is it too much to ask that it's actually applied to the building or, but
No, we can do that too.
Oh,
That's what we did for
wow.
Apple, if you remember, with HDC.
Yes, what a good
just,
idea.
paint a large swatch
Yep.
across the dividing line where the.
Oh,
it
my
is.
goodness. So go back to, do you have a photo of the existing building
Mhm.
again? Which I do
Upper left.
so.
Yeah,
Okay,
be somewhere
so-
between the windows and the lintel or the.
Done.
Actually, zoom in on the photograph. This would be a very specific for Mr. Ridberg.
Yeah, where do you want it?
Lower right-hand corner window.
Oh, right, over the door, you mean?
Yes, right there. Paint, I would say, 3/4 of the area under the sill, turn the corner and go up, and over and around the head of the window.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, that way we can see comparison of the existing brick color, the new brick color, and how it fits with the stuff to remain, with the sill and the lintel.
Okay.
Excellent.
Mr. Rydberg, I'm sorry. I thought you said that you're trying to match the lower brick to the upper. Was that?
No, no, no. We're gonna paint the
Okay.
lower brick. We're gonna paint out the upper brick. The one that's up top. That's where the old Gothic facade from 20, 25 years ago was there. That's why that brick got
So
messed
the
up.
paint color is closer to the upper brick or the lower
No,
brick?
lower,
Brick.
lower brick,
Right. So
darker.
I guess my question, Mr. Macri, not to argue about it, but shouldn't it be over the upper window? Because if it's trying to match the lower,
No, because the upper window would be actually, all of that would actually be painted over with the new color. I want to see how the new color relates to the existing
you
lower
want to
brick.
see the matching color over the
Yeah.
got it.
And
So
how
we're
it fits
gonna
with
see it
the,
all.
right.
All
Understood.
right.
Okay.
So Rudy,
Sure.
Mr. Rydberg, you're gonna let staff know when you've got it done.
Yes,
And we'll all trundle our little bodies down there and
Okay.
we'll also ask the HDC maybe to take a look at it.
okay.
And see what they say.
And as far as the lighting goes, Rudy, you said that it's just two soffit lights
No, not that
recessed.
is ARC, and you really should just do ARC for that when you're ready to propose the lighting. That's a quick lighting, and do it with the signage.
I did propose that to ARC already because when I gave him the scheme, I said we would have
Yeah.
3,000 Kelvin lights that they want, 2 downlights in the soffit.
Okay.
So,
And did they say okie dokie?
well, at that time, they were still upset about that, the fact that we weren't getting, that they weren't getting any of the facade that P and Z
I
said we
know.
could remove.
I
So,
know,
If I may say, we
yeah,
would, the client who's ever going to come in with the signage,
yeah,
I'd rather that be one-time signage, and if they want to show the 2 lights, what if they don't come in with a black awning? If they, depending who the tenant is, this was our design based
Yeah.
on it, which we like the colors. A new tenant may come in and have a different sign, or some sign. So why don't we just
Right.
have them confirm it?
And I
okay,
think that
Patrick,
that's
you
the
have your
intent.
hand, Patrick has his hand up.
Madam Chair, if I could suggest, if the applicant wants lighting now, I think it might be best given.
Yeah, I'm here,
and-
I heard that in his voice,
But
yeah,
but
I'm
if it's
thinking,
not,
yeah,
I
Yeah.
agree that if it
I got
can
it.
be, it can go with the signage that probably will come in whenever a tenant
yeah,
is.
I got it.
Right.
So what's interesting, Mr. Rydberg and Mr. Hegney, about this is the emotional attachment to what we've been looking at, even though it's not historically accurate, was powerful for both the ARC and some commission members. I'm emotionally attached to the Gothic thing, and I got tucked out of it because everybody said, no, 1906 is more appropriate. But I understand why the ARC pushed back. So, and why HDC pushed back. I mean, I understand people get emotionally attached to what they've been walking in front of for 60 years or 50 years, whatever. So it's interesting. It's lesson learned. I think when people propose things is how deep the emotional attachment is to what we consider Greenwich landmarks. And this is considered a Greenwich landmark, even though it's not architecturally and historically appropriate. Okay, so end of speech, we've solved the problem, right?
I think so,
Yes.
yes.
Do we have any public comment on this, on the Fred Knapp building? Please raise your virtual hand. Any public comment? All right. I kind of wanted someone to say, yeah, it's.
I think we put them to sleep the last time.
Please.
I know, but it's, Patrick, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Madam Chair, how would you like to handle the condition of approval? Do you want to just acknowledge through staff that this is
Yeah.
once the paint colors is up and we're agreement that it's been rectified?
Commission will come in and let you know one by one.
Okay.
As soon as we know it's up,
All right,
and
and
then
so we
staff
won't be
manages it from
changing the
there.
decision per se. We're just gonna make sure that this step was taken. Okay.
You're just
understood.
gonna have to tally up.
Well, do you think
Agreed,
it would
and
be
the offer.
better?
I think this strategy's fine. I think it's
Okay, you don't want to document that we changed it?
we can document it through the sign off that we give the applicant.
Okay. All right, as long as we have some kind of documentation of why it ended up the way it ended up, but actually our decision isn't the issue here. Because
Right, we're not changing the facts of the decision. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the input we're getting is no longer the ARCs for this issue.
So now that we have, okay.
Okay.
So y'all are good. Okay. Now you're gonna come back later, right, Mr. Hegney?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rydberg.
Thank you.
I'm still sad. He's laughing, I know. I know it makes more sense, but it is sentimental. All right. Okay, so our next item is a pre-application review, and this is for 530 Old Post Road Partners LLC. And this is to convert an existing office building to 10 residential units, including one affordable unit on a property at 530 Old Post Road. Hello, Miss Siska, how are you?
Hi.
We hardly ever see you.
It's been a while. I also have with me the architect Emmanuel Demore. You should see him on your screen.
You're the person we really want to talk to, though. So we'll
Fair enough.
get Mr. Demore will get him in, but the person we want to talk to is you. Did you listen at all to the briefing yesterday?
Unfortunately, I was not available during the
Okay.
briefing. I know
So
Mr.
here's-
Demore was on.
Okay, so cut to the chase. The narrative submitted to us has an affordability plan that references Connecticut General Statute 830G in the first paragraph, and then goes on, which a set aside under 830G, and that's in the first paragraph. That mandatory set aside, as you know, is 30%, which is not what you're proposing, but it's in the first paragraph of your narrative. So that whole paragraph is not right. Then the next thing that happens is in the subsequent paragraph, you refer to Connecticut General Statute 6110. 6110 is actually a local zoning regulation. It is not a Connecticut General Statute. It is our own workforce housing regulation. So, and it isn't clear to us reading it and what we discussed at the briefing, and Mr. Demore probably told you, it isn't clear to us exactly how you're taking advantage of that regulation, made me do it too, of that regulation in the 10 apartments. Because the way that regulation is written, if you utilize an incentive, we give a zoning incentive associated with a 10 residential units, and it's when you need more FAR or more gross square footage than the underlying zoning allows. Looking at the plan that we have for Mr. Demore, I believe that you may need that incentive and that you guys are correct, but I'm not sure because there's no zoning data in the pre-app. Because looking at Mr. Demore's plan, you're adding a whole story of FAR on the ground floor.
Correct.
Right? And that, I don't know where you are right now for zoning on that site, whether you are non-conforming for FAR, not, or,
Conforming.
excuse me?
No, it's existing conforming.
It's existing conforming, and
It's-
therefore, when you add the whole full story that you're adding, you would become non-conforming.
All right.
And you will need the zoning incentive. That is what you're going to have to make clear. And when you apply our local regulation, you're going to have to be very specific and say, here are the incentives we're permitted under the local regulation, and this is what we're taking advantage by this affordable unit. The other thing that was confusing to us was the pricing of the affordable unit was confusing. At 10 units, Patrick, 1 unit has to be 80% of SMI, correct? I gotta look it up. Mary knows it better.
80% AMI, I think.
AMI.
Yep.
So you talk about 60% of SMI and other units that are affordable, and there's a lot of stuff in that paragraph about the affordability that talks about different percentages, which is not applicable. So that whole narrative is just go to the table in 6110 at 10 units. What's the percentage? What's the affordability that would be required if you utilize the zoning bonuses? And bingo, just use that.
Thank you, Chair Alba, and I appreciate that. So I think we're looking at table 1 under 6-110.
Yeah, that sounds right. I didn't go back and look at 6110. Mary, you have your hand up. You're the ones who's memorized that.
Well, maybe not memorized it as much as I should. Yeah, I think it is table 1, and to the extent that there are other requirements under 6-110, particularly the general requirements under section F. So if in fact you're looking to get the incentives that are provided, there's certain requirements with respect to the nature of the affordable unit. And I think it'll be a lot clearer with the 830 stuff cleared out, because those are far more complicated and have a 30% requirement. So again, 6110 will tell you what you have to have and basically how it qualifies under 6110.
Understood. And so I guess the question, that we want to be sure of is under 6-110, I know there's some indication that there has to be some retail, and obviously we have no retail proposed.
No, no longer. We amended the regulation.
Okay,
So we could allow all residential in the building, and that's a very recent amendment that you'll see not in the full text of the regulations, but up at the tippy top when you open the link on the town website.
thank you for that.
It's like insider, because we just did that. So you would do that. One of the concerns we also had, and again, when you work with staff, they'll help you with this, is to look at the parking. Because if you're not going to have to if you don't do retail, you have to do your parking based on the bedrooms 6159. Am I doing the right?
58, I think it is.
158.
55 for residential.
55 for residential. You're going to have to do the right amount of parking. We noticed you're eliminating a lot of parking. You're going to have to find a way to make sure that there's enough parking, because there are some 2 bedrooms in there, that you have enough parking for all the units. We would be looking at that.
Okay.
Question. Do you mind?
Yes, Mr. Damore, you want to ask us a question?
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, so regarding parking, can we use under the section 6-110, 1 parking per 1 bedroom and 1.25 for the 2 bedroom?
Not, you're not doing,
Mixed use.
you're not doing mixed use. You're not going to have retail.
We understand. I understand.
Just go through it. You'll see what we
Yep.
mean. If you don't have any retail in the ground floor, you end up having to have more parking, because we let you have only one, we let you only do 1 space per unit if you have retail, because we assume there's sharing.
Right, but as full residential, it's 1 per bedroom, no matter what,
So
if it's all residential.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Mr.
Yeah.
Macri. So I think what the regulations say is that when you're doing an affordable, or when you're doing an all market building, it's 155 as is. When you're doing a mixed use, then that's the hybrid. And then when you're doing a below market unit, you are, Mr. Damore is right. It does say
You
one.
can do the 1.25. Okay.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a discount for the number of spaces. So that would be the applicable parking.
So,
correct.
and again, the ideal thing would be to, when you're starting to design, when you're doing this as a real application, to, to talk to staff and just walk through what you're doing so that you don't hit hiccups. Mr. Wells?
Yeah, a quick question for Mr. Damore. And thank you for submitting the energy efficiency narrative. But there seemed to be an anomaly between that, which indicates heat and cooling is going to be fired by electricity, versus the affordability housing opportunity memo. On Schedule B, it describes the heating as a carrier gas furnace. So maybe if you could just
We'll clarify that.
sync
for you.
up those two.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll look into it. Would you think it would be a problem if the the ranges will be gas?
Well, your energy efficiency narrative, why did you say it would be electric heat and cooling system? Why did you put that in your narrative?
That's what we intended, but the stoves, the range, we're thinking.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Gas.
No, that's fine. Are you gonna have gas-fired hot water heaters? Is that the plan for the hot water?
Possibly.
Yeah.
We will look into it with the mechanical engineer.
Yeah. But it sounds like you'll have heat
Chris?
pumps for heating and cooling,
Where's that?
which would be terrific.
Correct. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the commission? Any other comments? All right.
Can I ask one last question? So do you
Yes,
think
of course.
we could still apply that section, for parking being 1:1 for the 1 bedroom and 1.25 for the 2 bedroom, or?
That's what Patrick just said. Yeah. What
Okay, great.
we were wrong.
Right,
We-
we're talking subsection E, subsection 3 of that, right, Pat?
Hold on, I gotta get my subsections organized in my head here.
Yes, it's E3,
Yeah,
E3.
thank you.
Thank you.
I was just trying to turn to it because I meant to look it up and forgot. Yeah, so you can, and then so the 17 might work, right?
12, actually.
Oh,
There
that's
was
right.
a
I keep
typo.
forgetting. Oh, that's the other thing, you guys. You have 17 in your narrative and 12 in the actual drawing, and that threw us for a loop. So
I'm
your
sorry.
12, yeah, your 12 would still potentially work.
Yes.
Your big question is going to be, oh, there was another thing that was confusing, Mr. Demora, in the thing you wrote, which is you talk about subsurface parking, but you have a whole section on how you're going to convert the surface level parking into apartments. And then you say, and we're also going to convert the subsurface parking into living space, but you don't have subsurface parking.
No, I'm sorry. That we will have to look into that.
Okay,
The
so
second
just-
paragraph is,
And so you know, among there's usually 7 of us here, somebody reads everything. If you add us all up, we've all read it. Eventually, we've all read it. So just think that we're reading over the weekend and we're going to read every word you wrote. So just like make sure you don't cut and paste anything that confuses
I'm
us.
sorry. We look
No.
into that.
Okay, so you're just going to enclose the first floor, and the question is how much square footage in FAR. Do you know what the total height of the building is now? From
It's 3
what's the roof?
stories. I believe it's
We know it's 2 stories above the
32
parking.
feet, if I'm not mistaken.
It's 32 feet, and the max you can go on 6110 is
40.
45 or 40, 40.
47 with the.
47.
I think.
Yeah, I have the elevation in front of me. First floor to the roof deck is 32 feet
Perfect.
plus a 4 to the top of the railing.
Okay.
So he's way under, even if
So
it's a
you're
grade
fine on
plane
the
issue. Yeah.
height. So you're fine on the height. So your real only question is going to be your gross square footage, but once you've enclosed it, and how you work that, if it works with your 6110, how the math
Correct. So
works.
if we, enclosing the first floor, with the incentive, we get up to 14,995.5 square feet, almost 15,000, and we are proposing 13,523.
Well, I didn't do any math. Well, see, we don't have your numbers, so we'll wait till you submit.
No problem.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Demore, just a real quick question. Elevation says the existing first floor to the existing second floor. The floor to floor is 9'10". Is there enough room under the building to get a full height occupiable story there?
Yes, absolutely. Obviously the first floor is not going to be as high as the second and third, but we're going to reuse the existing space.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know what
Because-
do you know what the clearance? I think that's what Nick's asking. Do you know what the
Well, we're definitely going to have 8-foot ceilings.
Yeah, at a minimum, yes. So it's going to be 8 and then plus whatever it is left over for your ceiling to floor thickness. Okay, good enough. Thank you very much, Mr. Demore.
You're welcome.
Okay. Um, anybody else? No. Does anybody from the public have any questions or comments? Please raise your virtual hand. This is on 530 Old Post Road, which is a conversion from an office building to 10 apartments with one affordable. Nope. All righty.
Thank you.
So we'll see you when you submit, and staff happy to help you. Not an 830G, you're doing a local regulation, you're using the incentives, and Patrick, as you saw, and Tracy too, experts on the parking.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Have a nice night.
Bye-bye. All righty. Our next application is another pre-app. And who's representing the applicant is,
Mr. Haslin,
that's right, I think we know that, Mr.
he
Haslund.
has acquaintances that are coming in too.
Acquaintances? I don't know. All right, Mr. Haslund, who else do you want to bring in?
I'd like to add Rudy Rydberg, the architect who you all know, and Eric Torrell, who's the applicant.
He's not here, Rydberg. Hold on, maybe he's not under Rudy.
Well,
Yeah,
he's
there he is. He's under Rydberg.
He's out painting a building.
Yeah, he's out painting a building for us. All right. Okay, Mr. Rydberg, if you would accept. All righty. And then who was the other person?
Eric Torrell, Torral.
He's already in the room, Madam Chair.
Got it.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thanks.
All righty. So the next pre-app discussion is JED Martial Arts LLC for a pre-application review at 30 South Water Street in the WB and Coastal Overlay Zones for a martial arts studio. Okay, Mr. Haslund, I think you were listening yesterday, so we were concerned about the parking.
Yes, I was listening yesterday. This is the 30 South Water Street, which is the old Bank of America building. It's been there since 1967, and it's been vacant for several years now. You may remember in 2022, the owner of the property came before the commission seeking a rezoning because he's unable to find any prospective tenants for the building, and you can see why. It's kind of a funny spot for office or retail, and so it sits kind of forlornly there at the start of South Water Street. So we think this is a good fit. Eric's excited about using the building for the martial arts studio. But from the beginning, we looked at the issue of parking. And as you know, under the both office and retail, it's based on square footage, and the bank was non-conforming both as to use in the BZ zone or WB zone, but also as to parking, because 22 spaces plus one handicap would normally be required for the bank or for any other office or retail use. So it's non-conforming as to use, and it's non-conforming as to parking. So Eric is proposing to come in with a use, once again, non-conforming, but less non-conforming than the bank, we would argue. And also less non-conforming as to parking, because there's 12 spaces there now, plus one handicap. For his use, he would need 16, which would be 15 people in the class, plus one instructor under the regulations. So his deficiency is 4, unlike the bank, which is 10. So we would like to present it when we come back to you as a straight 6-141 with the existing parking, showing that the proposed use is not any more non-conforming than the present use, and the parking actually would become less non-conforming than the present use. And we kind of thought that's the direction you were heading yesterday at the beginning of the briefing, and then in the middle of the briefing too, when you suggested that as a practical matter, if he found that he needed more parking, he could come back to staff on the counter and propose possibly doing something like Rudy had drafted, adding those 4 spaces or trying to find other spaces there or off campus, whatever, but basically leave it to the applicant if they found as a practical matter they needed more parking to come back to staff and address it in that form, which is great. But I did indicate in my narrative letter that if we were to come back and propose those 4 spaces, I'm not sure it's going to pass DPW muster. We're about 1.5 feet shy of what we would need for aisle widths. The bank had 2 aisles. One was for the teller and the other was for the pass-through lane. And it functioned perfectly well. There was concern yesterday raised in the briefing about if you've got a car that's parking and people need to get out, that you might not have enough room. So we could discuss that down the road if in fact you're willing to say, we'll just condition if the applicant wants to come back in that parking, you can do that. If we can't get approval from DPW, then maybe we come back to the commission and seek relief from that 1.5 feet or so. I do know that the building tapers back twice on that side, so that the farthest of those 4 spaces would actually meet the aisle requirement, as would the second to the last for most of that bay. And we could make the first bay out on South Water as employee parking only. So that would be the instructor possibly, and that would be then pretty non-transient. So there would really only be one spot that would be the 1.5 feet, probably that would be an issue for getting in and out of the car on that out of the 4 spaces. But so that's what we were thinking of. We could go to DPW and talk to them now about seeing what kind of relief we get from that aisle width. But I guess we would like to have you consider us just coming back as a straight out 6-141 with the parking as it currently exists. And then, as you suggested, Madam Chair, leave it to the applicant if they need more parking to come back to staff.
I'm going to let Nick jump in first because he's got his hand up.
Mr. Hassan, way back when we initially talked to the property owner, I don't know if I remember this correctly, but they owned the restaurant next door. Is that still the case?
Yes, that's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a possibility, because they're adjacent, there could be some kind of a shared parking agreement to kind of resolve some of the physical limitations that you have on the site.
That's possible. I don't know. It's a fairly large restaurant. And so if the parking is driven by the seating, which as you know it is, I don't know what the requirements are from the commission on prior site plan approvals, by which, how much parking they're supposed to have. I think we all know as a practical matter that that's an underutilized lot.
Right, going in the right direction, because I think it's understanding you gave us a class schedule. I think it's actually exploring how the class schedule conflicts or not conflicts with actually usage next door. I would assume
there's only a couple of times, Nick, at Monday to Friday, only the 7 to 7:45 a.m. class would work. The rest of them, the restaurant's open for lunch, as I remember.
Right, but would the lunch count be, I guess it would be naturally smaller than the dinner and those things. If it's possible to kind of figure out how those two moving parts could work together, it may resolve your parking issue. Now, this leads on to one thing actually we didn't touch on, but something to consider is setting up the Byram River for the possible connection of the river walk along there. And as I see it, spaces 5 through 12 may have the opportunity to move inboard on the site a little bit, so you can create some kind of a space at the seawall a little bit for a walkway in the future kind of thing. That way, when things do start to connect, at least it's already set up to go. If you can explore that as well, I think it's more of a geometrical study in terms of width at the river, moving the spaces back, and how much room's left over in the vehicle movement lanes. And I understand what you're saying about the parallel parking there. First 2 for employees, other 2 are generally close, but I think you were right. Having DPW take a really good hard look at that would be important. I don't believe this is going to be a critical issue for the fire department, because I'm sure they can get to most of the building without actually having to enter the site. But I think DPW would have concerns.
Okay. Mr. Haslam, go ahead, and then who's going to jump in with something?
No, I was just going to say that as far as the public access is concerned, I mean, the building is staying as it currently is, but it's really an owner's issue about that and what they're willing to concede to. But I after you made that comment yesterday, I did go back and looked at what we do with Interstate Lumber like 17 years ago when I was representing them, and we basically did a declaration that said, in the future, should you do X, Y, and Z, then at that point you have to dedicate this space. And I think that might be a logical thing to do here too.
Right. If the geometry works and, you know, we can kind of set it up in paper format to say, yes, you know, at a future date, this can be done.
Okay.
Then we have it and, you know, it can be done. We looked at it back now, 25 years from now. Yeah, we're going to do it. Just follow what we did 25 years ago.
So,
Perfect. That would
Nick,
work out.
I started thinking about emergency access after you brought it up on that first one. If you had parking spaces there and you don't have enough lane width, you can't get to the back of the building with emergency vehicles, right?
You could get probably from the entrance side, but the apparatus would have to back out. But I think it's more of kind of getting around the whole building. Is it necessary? I think maybe just fire marshal to opine on that. I don't believe it. It may not be necessary, but it's up to them. You know, one-story commercial building. It's not sprinkled, is it, Mr. Haslam or Mr.
No, I
Rickerton?
don't believe so. Rudy might know, but I don't
No,
think.
I didn't think so. The building's too old.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Rudy's actually already, since your comment yesterday, he's already started looking at how much we could maybe modify that parking lot to maybe get another space or two, maybe get the public access in, maybe create better circulation, whatever. So we appreciate those comments, and he's already looking into that.
Okay. All righty, anything else from the rest of the commission? Trying to get us through this. Okay. Members of the public, Mr. Shahadi. Mr. Shahadi was very quick to raise his hand, but if anybody from the public wishes to speak on this proposed martial arts studio at 30 South Water Street, please raise your virtual hand. There we go.
Good
Hello,
afternoon,
Mr.
everybody.
Shahadi.
Nice to see everybody. You all know me. I'm here on behalf of my role as the treasurer and the land use chair for the Byram Neighborhood Association. And the BNA is here to support the pre-application for a proposed change in use. To add to some of the background that Attorney Haslam gave, the property has been vacant for more than 5 years. It was closed by B of A well before COVID. It's not the only bank in Byram that's closed. There used to be 2 branches. There used to be a Wachovia branch on North Water Street that closed even further ago. And if you read the news today about, I think B of A is supposed to close 1,000 branches nationwide, and they're not alone in that. I can't say this from an expert perspective, just from an observer of real estate. The likelihood that another bank branch is going to open in this location is somewhere between 0 and none. Yeah. So to keep this as a bank use is going to pretty much condemn it to vacancy. Moving on to the WB zone, this is located in the WB zone. The BNA has expressed to you all before kind of the general sense that the WB zone is an awkward fit for the Byram waterfront. Short of a major redevelopment of multiple parcels, the likelihood of a water-related use coming into the current building is also pretty low. I won't say 0 because I don't know all potential water-related uses, but this is very, very different than Coscob Harbor or Byram Harbor.
And even then, Mr. Shahadi, with Coscob, as you know, the marina struggled and added uses that were not directly water related in order to stay viable. So, yeah. I mean, we're well aware that this is an issue, and the state law is what the state law is. So there you go. Okay. So you are all in support, and you like the idea of adding the easement.
Yeah, and just want to add something about parking. I go by that intersection pretty much every day. I can echo what Nick said. This is an extremely underutilized lot next door. Other than special events,
I have seen it jam-packed.
Saturday nights,
yeah,
it's almost never full. So, you know, I can't get in a conversation in between the tenant and the landlord. But the majority of the times of day that they have classes listed, I highly doubt that there would be no ability to provide the 2 or 3 extra spaces that might be needed to meet code. So, you know, we would love to see that place used. We would love to see a community-oriented facility. We may have other comments when it comes back to a full application, but I know the WB always makes you, you know, kind of walk a tightrope, and just wanted you to know that there's community support for this.
Great. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. All right. With that, thank you again, Mr. Shahadi. Anybody else from the public wish to speak on this application? Again, this is the martial arts studio at 30 South Water Street. No, Mr. Leroux?
Madam Chair, the question I have on my notes was about the differing times of classes. Did we get an
There's a 30-minute class and 45-minute classes. No, we haven't not gotten there.
Yes, so the 30-minute classes are for children ages 3 to 5. And the 45-minute are for all other ages. And I should say too that I failed to pick up on, there is one Sunday class midday too, which I didn't put in there, but we will have that in our final application. I just missed it.
And are you gonna do drop off for the kids or?
We could. I mean, this isn't LB or LBR, so it doesn't require the drop-off plan or whatever you've got, but we could come up with something if you thought it was appropriate.
You know, the only thing we ask you to just make sure kids are safe if they're being dropped off, just, you know, it doesn't matter. It isn't the zone. Oh, it's fine with zoning. This is really a question of we love our kids. So let's just make sure that if you do drop off, that they're going to be safe.
Yeah, actually, that helps me. It reminds me that also Eric indicated that about a third of their enrollees have siblings that attend the same class. So that does also cut back on the parking requirement dramatically. So anyway, thank you all.
So you're located somewhere else now?
Madam Chair, your mic cut out.
Oh, sorry. You're located somewhere else now?
Eric?
Yeah, currently, we manage, my partner's here. He manages another location in Rochelle.
So you know, so that's where you have the data on the, so when you guys submit, what would be super helpful to us is the parking demand in New Rochelle and what you see is when the peak demand is and stuff like that, just to help us eyeball it.
Okay.
I mean, just look, you know, and it doesn't have to be super precise, but just look at it and see when you're seeing peak parking demand, because sometimes people hang out afterwards and talk. And then if you just gap the classes a little differently, your parking opens back up. All right. Okay. So we'll see you guys when you come back. Any questions for us? Nope. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget to paint this building too, Mr. Ridberg. It's a really gross color.
You can have a busy summer painting. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
All righty. And then Chip, sorry. You got Mr. Cohen?
I'm bringing him in now.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
All righty. There he is. Hello, Mr. Cohen. We can only see the top of your head. Give us your whole head. There he is. Little more.
There we
More. There you go.
This is so difficult. Okay, I got it. Here we are. Hi, how are you all?
So, Mr. Cohen, I am the only one who didn't understand what the shared use meant. Everybody else totally understood that you're going to fold up the court when you need the parking for events and that the rest of the time it'll be out. And I'm the only one who missed that. And we did want your dissertation at least 40 pages on why you're not doing Padel.
Why we're not doing Padel? Because you can't fold up Padel.
No, we just wanted you to say that.
Yeah.
So I don't have any questions for you. Does anybody else have questions on this application? Mr. Wells, and then Mr. McRae.
Sorry, Nick.
Go ahead.
I guess I had a question on striping. Are you going to stripe it for pickle or are you going to stripe it for parking? How do you handle you can stripe it for pickle?
Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, Mr. Wells, it'll be really used for overflow parking when we need the spaces.
Right.
And you do valet when you're using overflow.
They do valet, yes, they do.
Okay,
And then I guess the last question is the surface. So you have a tar surface. I guess your club members are okay with that, you're gonna have a little more variability in how the ball bounces, I would guess, but, or you're gonna have a different surface from the rest of the
I think
parking
it'll be
lot.
the same surface.
Yeah,
Yeah. It'll just be slightly regraded so that it's level as opposed to what they've been testing it on, which is
Great.
a little off of level.
great.
Okay, so
Thank
there's-
you.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Does anybody from the public, I didn't give anybody a chance, but I think you're good, right? Does anybody from the public wish to speak on the Riverside Yacht Club pre-application for the installation on their parking lot of 2 pickleball courts at 102 Club Road in Riverside? 102 Club Road in Riverside, Riverside Yacht Club, 2 pickleball courts on their parking lot. Not seeing any raised hands. We'll see you when you come back, sir.
Madam Chair, may I just
Yes, sir.
inquire as to one issue, and that is in light of the fact that there is no new lighting that's being proposed,
No
I
need.
assume that there's no need to go to A or C.
And it's temporary.
Correct.
Well,
Right.
Thank you.
temporary as in the nets, but the asphalt to surface will be permanent, right?
Well, it's not just the net, it's the walls around, temporary walls around it.
Right. Understood.
I mean, I don't see a reason to go to ARC.
I'm not arguing. I don't want anyone to hear this and think that there's like a pop-up pickle court kind of thing. It's the vertical parts of it that are temporary, not the horizontal.
Not the surface.
Also, Madam Chair, in light of the nature of the work that's being done, which is sort of insignificant in terms of the picture, I am hopeful that we don't need to apply for a special permit as well, that this is needing a site plan review only.
That's the boss's call.
Boss?
Technically, that would be the commission, but
No, I mean, to me, I don't see where it needs a special permit. You're not adding volume, you're not intensifying. I'm not seeing where it needs a special permit, so I copped out and let you say something.
Mr. Cohen, the
Yes, sir.
area that this is actually going in is already paved. Is that
Right.
right?
Correct.
Okay, so you're going to be painting the padel court on the
Pickleball,
Pickle.
pickleball, pickle.
oops, on the actual
Yes, on the parking lot.
on
That's
the
what,
parking lot.
that's what Wells
Actually,
was asking.
actually, we're going to regrade it slightly to begin with, and then we're going to paint it for the
Flat.
game.
Okay, so you're going to regrade, repave, and then paint the pickleball court on top of that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
Okay.
now can we go back to Patrick and the special permit? So my sense is no, Patrick.
I don't disagree with your assessment.
Okay.
I think also it's in the coastal area, so those issues need to be addressed, but those are part of the site plan discussion regardless of special permit, so.
And he's not adding impervious.
No, but he is doing work, so the analysis needs to be done for the
Okay.
impact if there, and the answer can be none, but it
Okay.
needs to be stated, so.
But it's still under CAM, so that would work.
I think it would be perfectly fine to come back as a site plan application to the commission.
There it goes. Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. Cohen?
That's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. We'll see you when you come back, or we'll see you some other time.
Okay, bye.
All righty. So now we go to AP. Let me just get Mr. Wadia, and I'm not seeing Mr. Wadia. Oh, that's right. It's SE minor as well. All righty. And okay, we've got everybody. Mr. Wadia, if you would accept, he's in, right? Okay.
No, he keeps raising his hand. Mr. Wadia, we see you. Just hold on one second.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful because as you said, you do have some hardship with the wetlands.
Gigi, your audio is picking up the
No,
microphone.
she turned it off.
Okay.
She muted. All right. Okay, so Mr. Wadia, if you would unmute, and I guess that's Ms. Orsi, whenever you're ready. Our next item is also a pre-application review, AP Realty Associates LLC, for a pre-application review for a new building at 189 Sound Beach Avenue. It's a 2.5-story office building and demolition of the existing at 189 Sound Beach. And with that, Ms. Ma, if you don't mind, I don't remember, did you attend the briefing yesterday?
We did listen to the briefing and as did Rachel. Yeah.
Okay, so you know what we said. Bottom line, just go straight to ARC because you're in the village district. Mr. Wadia, the building is very pretty, it's gorgeous, but the question is it what ARC, when they apply if you wanted to show everybody, there's the very pretty building.
Oh,
If
go to
they
the next
will-
slide. The next slide's even better.
It's, yeah. It's
Bing.
Bing. It's a beautiful building and it's up to the ARC when they apply the village district guidelines, the new regulations, whether that is consistent with the old Greenwich Village District. We ourselves, I myself had some hesitation, sir, because if you look at the way the avenue is, that more house-like appearance of what you're proposing would not be consistent, but it's not our call until the ARC has reviewed it.
Sure. I thought we should mix it up so that it doesn't look like a whole bunch of brick buildings all together or flat roofs. But of course, we are open to any suggestion from the ARC and we can easily modify these drawings to fit their.
Well, here's the question to you. If you guys have had a chance, have you had a chance to review the old village, the village district guidelines?
Yes, we have.
Okay, so it's an interesting point you make about not having everything be the same. But at the same time, the village district was intended to preserve the current ambiance of Sound Beach Avenue. And
Right.
so that's going to be the call, and we leave you in the very capable hands of Mr. Hine and his merry band of architects.
Sure, we'll consult with them and come back to you. Thank you.
Anybody else from the commission wish to make a comment? Yeah, it's a beautiful, it's a very pretty building, and there are some house-like structures, I get it, so that's the thing is, let's see. It looks like nobody else on the commission has comments. So, let me just turn to the public. Oh, we didn't get Ms. Orsi in.
Yeah, she's having some trouble logging in.
Yeah, I thought we clicked her in, but in any event,
I did
here
try
she
to
comes.
promote her. It didn't.
She fell
put it-
back out.
Can we
so-
try one more time?
Yep, I did. She's in. So does anybody from the public have any comments on this pre-application for a new office building at 189 Sound Beach Avenue in the old Greenwich Village District? Please raise your virtual hand. No, you'll probably get some comments when you come back.
Sure.
But by then we'll have addressed the issue. If the ARC has reviewed it, we'll have addressed that. All right.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you very
Madam
much.
Chairwoman, is there anything else we need to keep in mind other than ARC from your perspective or from the commission's perspective? We heard your debriefing yesterday, and
Mhm.
it seemed pretty.
Patrick has something to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the discussion of the use is going to be important, what the intended approval is going to be, and there is still a zoning component of this. It's not all aesthetic, right? It's going to be how much parking do you need now, and all those discussions. So if that, just having that in the materials going forward. I know you have an idea, but yeah.
We have that in the material, so if there are any concerns, we can, we like to address them and understand any concerns you may have today so that we can be ready when we're back after ARC.
Just to give the commission a brief overview, or as a refresher, with the proposed design, I would say we are mainly either maintaining the existing use or any nonconformities on the site, or we're improving them.
I saw that.
So Yep, so with the proposed design, we are not looking to max anything out or change much, only if we are improving it from a zoning perspective.
So the thing is, since you're adding gross square footage, so you're currently non-conforming with the office space on both the first and the second floors.
Correct.
And so the question is, to Patrick's point, when you add space, are you increasing, because that would be an expansion of a non-conformity if you put office in the additional space. So that's what you got to think about.
Right, and that's an office, by the way, is not permitted on the first floor as of right. But again, you have an existing conformity.
So you would not be able to expand. So you guys know the zoning drill. You can't expand a nonconformity. You can intensify it, but not expand it. And Patrick has an elephant class he's happy to give on that. But
Pachyderm,
the
Madam Chair. but that-
pachyderms, but you cannot expand it. So as you bring that building up to have the facade be lined up with the other buildings on the block, you're expanding that first floor. You would not be able to do office space in that.
Would we be able to pull up slide 2 of the presentation? With the floor area, Wadia Associates had done a calculation. We're actually decreasing the gross floor area and the usable floor area for both the first and second floor. And that's through the, hopefully you'll be able to see it better on the slide. So the light gray area is the existing footprint, and the dark gray is the proposed.
Gotcha.
So the whole building is really just sliding forward and slightly down to create just a little bit more distance off that property line. So we won't be increasing the use of the office space on either floor.
Office space on either floor, and that would be, I mean, clearly, we would prefer to see retail on the ground floor. Okay, because of retail continuity. We recognize that there is another office right near you on the ground floor, very close to this building, but retail continuity so that a pedestrian can go from retail to retail is great, but it depends on the property owner. Patrick?
Not to piggyback on this, I think probably the other thing to consider is that if the first floor can adaptively be reused from a retail use to the office use that you may be intending, that would help in the design, right? You're not building it purpose built for an office, because
Don't
that
get locked in.
it may cause it to be hard to redevelop at a later date when there's another tenant that may want to go in or whatever.
Noted.
Mr. Wadia.
The existing use was office space because William Railways had an office in there. So could you continue that use?
You can continue the existing use, you just can't expand it.
Yes.
I think, sorry, when we go look at the facade, we'll look to see if there's any way on the first floor to make that space more adaptable for different uses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But the use, yes, you have an established use on the first floor. That's not what we're arguing about. It just, as a new building, we're just looking at the long-term use of it and the longevity.
And I guess the other thing is, just to give you the heads up, if there was a concern in the back of my mind, Ms. Ma, about uses, we're a little cooked with the fitness uses on the ground floor on Sound Beach right now, because they are absorbing way more parking than they were transparent about.
Yes.
And we won't name names, but we're going to be very hesitant about a fitness use, any kind of fitness use right now, because if we feel it's damaging the Sound Beach.
Sure. And I don't think that's the intention here at all for this
Great.
project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from the commission? All right. So we'll see you when you come back.
All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Thank you. Really appreciate being here after a long time.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
see. Well, we didn't really get to see you very much, Mr. Wadia, but welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Lowe?
Immediately following your introduction of our final candidate, as it were, I'd like to make a comment.
Okie doke. Our next discussion item, is this Mr. Hegney, right? Does he have his hand up?
Yes, he should be coming in, or he's been asked to promote.
All right. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm
all right.
recused on this.
Ciao. Oh, I think you just lowered your hand automatically. I'm sorry. Okay, our next and last discussion item is the Berkeley Insurance Company for a pre-application review for a project that I don't know how to explain this, but it's an office building with storage on Davenport Avenue and Steamboat Road, basically across from the Delamar. And we have previously seen this as a pre-application, and before coming in with a final, the applicant is coming in with a pre-app to discuss how they're going to move forward. And at that point, Mr. Lowe, you're on.
So in a previous life, this applicant came forward with an application, nothing to do with this one, and which I believe we approved. And part of that approval included
the rooftop on the other building and
yes,
the top floor
and the noise. And the neighbors, as I recall, were fairly vocal and insistent that the applicant take care of that. And I think, Patrick, you and I spoke about this at some point, and I can't remember whether it was resolved or not, but I noticed that there's at least one letter from a neighbor on this application referring to the lack of progress, so to speak, on the earlier one. So I mentioned this, and Patrick, if you or anybody have any comments, I'd like to know what's going on.
So I'm happy to update. Again, this is not related to this site at all, but I'm your history is fairly accurate, Mr. Lowe.
But the applicant is the same.
The applicant is the same, correct?
Yeah.
So
So
the
we have to look at each application separately, like the other times didn't exist. But on the other hand, when people write us commenting on this application, the comment is a concern that they haven't been a good neighbor. Sorry, Patrick, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
no, I don't want you to think that I was done with my statement. So that's all.
Go ahead.
I will just update the commission. The Office of the First Selectman, who now is in charge of the noise ordinance, has been out to the site and done investigations. The results of that test does not show that the subject site is in violation of the noise ordinance. However, Mr. Lowe, you're correct that the prior applications at the property of the current WR Berkeley building had noise attenuation related to the construction that was going on. That project has not started. So that is the information that I have now. I don't know if Mr. Hegney wants to add to anything. I know you weren't planning to talk about this, Mr. Hegney, but
No, Pat and I spoke earlier today. He mentioned that this was something that had come up and the first selectman was involved. That project has not yet moved forward. We're working with the architects on it to see when we can start. That's where you're replacing a significant amount, or perhaps almost all, of the mechanical equipment, particularly on the roof. It's a complete renovation of the entire building, and it's not yet in a position to move forward. And so we understand that's part of the plan, and that was part of what this commission approved, and we will be moving forward with it. I can't tell you when at this point, but I think, as Pat indicated, the Selectman's office has gone out to confirm that we're not in violation of the noise ordinance, and we have and we are committed to, when we do the renovation, to lower whatever noise is coming from the building. So that's where that project stands. It has not moved forward.
Yeah, and
one of the things they want to have is a place to move to in the interim, which is the purpose of our getting together this afternoon. And so they're just not ready to be able to
I understand, Mr.
pull the
Hagan.
trigger on this project.
Right. Notwithstanding that we're supposed to be keeping to our individual applicant silos, as it were, when we see a letter coming in about an issue that is pre-existing about the same applicant, I think we're remiss in not referencing it and inquiring about it, and that's why I bring this up.
And we have every intention of abiding by and adhering to the conditions that were placed on the site plan approval for the property at 475 Steamboat Road. It's just that's not in a position to move forward right now.
So I hate to ask this, but can't they just do the equipment piece of this work and not do the rest of that penthouse work? Weren't they just gonna change the HVAC out as well? And can't they just do that so it's quieter?
I think it's all part of the mechanical systems for the building. And
I mean,
not my area of expertise. I can certainly ask
Okay, I
and
mean,
find
here's
out.
the question. It's just in the context of the application we're looking at right now. Mr. Lowe was disturbed by the fact that the other one, that there was still complaints about the noise. And the other one was, there's an email that came in and you probably saw it that says, oh, and so they're gonna put more trees on Davenport, but they don't take care of their trees. They're not a good neighbor and they don't take care of their trees. So that kind of commentary is not helpful to an applicant. It's just not helpful because it raises a question. Are they they've got those 17,000 square foot of landscaping proposed for this project. Will that landscaping be maintained? So now the commission's been put on alert. So I'm just saying, if you can give your clients some feedback about that, it would be super good.
Well, we'll certainly be discussing it.
Okay.
Well,
alrighty.
And give the department some feedback on why progress has not been made in some greater detail than saying that it's part of a bigger project and they haven't really got started, because, the public, it gets very frustrated. They don't necessarily always understand the nuances of how public administration works and various things. So I would ask for that.
I think there are a couple of things. One is it does meet the current noise ordinance. Were we looking to reduce the amount of noise generated by the mechanical equipment? Yes, that's part of the plan that this commission approved, and that's part of what we would be implementing. But we're not
we know we're
required to
overstepping.
implement it at a particular speed. And when the project is ready to move forward, we'll be doing that.
Let's go to what's before us now. So before us now is this is some revisions based on the decision we had made. There was, I think you listened to the briefing yesterday. And
I do want to address that, Madam Chair, and to follow through on the guidance that you gave us as part of the preliminary decision. This is a plan that has been really completely redesigned from what you saw and was part of the earlier site plan application. And what I'd like
we
to
certainly
do
appreciate you making the effort to really rethink the plan, and to improve the issues with nonconformities. That was a great positive step. I think what you heard us saying yesterday is that we still have concerns about what we believe are still nonconformities that you would be creating. Do you want to go over those tables with us? We spent time on the tables from pages 30 to 38 in your submission.
Sure. If we could bring up the application material that we submitted last week. And I guess start at slide 4, which is the slide that has all of the buildings and properties on it. So we have 5 properties. On the left, we're showing the 5 buildings that are part of each of those properties. The hashed areas are those that are that are non-conforming as to setbacks. The other area on the bottom is an area that is above the height requirement of 40 feet. It's at 44.5 feet. What we have shown here is that as a composite, we are reducing all of the nonconformities that exist and making some of those actually conforming. So when we look at the proposal on the right, which is a total redo from the L-shaped building you saw as part of the prior application, we are meeting all of the setbacks. We're at 17.5 feet off of on the top from Davenport. That's the setback is determined by under 129. We are meeting the 30-foot setback on the right-hand side or the south side of the property. And we are increasing the setback. It's only little over 3 feet from Steamboat Road, and we're increasing it to over 14 feet on the north side of Davenport. Since that's considered a street side, we're meeting the setback there of 10 feet. We are reducing the overall height so that we meet the 40-foot height, which before we were asking for 44 feet. And this is now conforming. And what's shown on the right is that we are meeting all of those setback requirements. The other part that I would add is we start out with 650,000 cubic feet. With this plan, we're at 589, which is also 36,000 cubic feet less than what we had in the prior plan. So we have a building that is consolidated, meets setbacks, meets height, and is less volume than what we submitted to you earlier. And the other part of this, and I want to go through the rest of the slides with you, is that we are taking each parcel of the 5 parcels and what the conditions are on that specific parcel, and then addressing it. So if we could go to the next one, please, which is 48. The numbers are not sequential on Davenport Avenue. So the one at the corner is 48. And what we have is an existing house, and it does not meet the setbacks. So we're having a property that meets the setbacks. We are also conforming as to a height. We are more conforming as to building coverage, and we are conforming as to site coverage. One of the other things that this plan does on all of the properties is it creates greater green space to the advantage of the neighborhood. And we are less volume. So we're going from 27,565 cubic feet to 25,000 cubic feet, so that this property, as it stands by itself, is more conforming with what we're proposing than what exists now. And we're reducing the square footage as well to make it more conforming. This building would be proposed as a storage facility for equipment and trash and recycling. The other thing that this does, that was an issue that the commission brought up as part of the prior plan, was rather than having our garbage trucks backing out onto Steamboat Road, which was what we had been planning, this is one where the garbage truck will have plenty of room to maneuver to be able to get in, remove the refuse and recycling, and then exit the site. And so that's one of the other advantages in having this particular building. The other thing is it does screen the parking, which is basically in the same location as the parking on just to the bottom or west of this, from the residential portion of Davenport. So if we can go to the next one, please. So this is 44. Again, this is a building that is non-conforming as to setback. It's non-conforming as to coverage and site coverage. We are looking to reduce the square footage on this. This is actually a 2.5-story building. It has an apartment on the upper 2 floors and office on the first floor. And we're reducing the square feet from 2,254 to 890. So we're actually conforming as to this parcel for square footage and FAR. We're also reducing the volume on this particular site from 25,549 cubic feet to 20,000 cubic feet. And again, this building would provide a 1-story buffer from the residential property to the office building itself. If we go to the next one, please. Now we're still on the same side of Davenport, but now we have an odd number rather than an even number, just to make it a little more confusing on Davenport. On the left, we have the existing structure and showing that it essentially is right on the property line. The building is non-conforming as to coverage, building coverage, site coverage, which is basically 100%. We're reducing that to 32% for building coverage and 61% for site coverage. We're also reducing the volume considerably from 183,000 to 133,000 cubic feet. And we're also bringing it back considerably from Davenport. Right now, the building sits on Davenport. Setback required under 6129 is 17.5 feet, and we're going to be over 52 feet from Davenport. And I guess that's it on this one, except the portion of the building that is on 59 Davenport also will be 2 stories rather than 3 stories. So that's part of the step back from the residential to the commercial that helps with the reducing any visual impact that the plan has on the residential property owners. I would also add it also creates a very large area for landscaping to provide better screening. If we go to the next one, please. So this is the long narrow lot that has the building at 545 that's built right on the property line. We are removing that so that we meet the 30-foot setback. And on this particular property, we have a building coverage of 26. We're reducing it to 25, a little over 25. So it's more conforming, almost conforming. And site coverage is going from 92% to 28%. The building will meet the height of 40 feet. The building square footage is being reduced from 5,700 to 5,000, which would be conforming as a 0.5 floor area ratio. And there's a slight reduction also in volume on this particular property. So meets setbacks, floor area, and site coverage. It also creates on the south side or the right-hand side of the screen a greater area for landscaping against the condo units that are on the west to the south of this project. And if we can go to the next one, please. So here we have the 4-story office building that is 44 plus feet high. And we are reducing building coverage by 77 to 43% and site coverage from 94 to 83%. Slight reduction in volume and a slight reduction in floor area for this particular parcel. As I mentioned earlier, the setback is actually 3.1 feet when you do the average under 6129. The prior plan had the building approximately 9 feet off the property line, and here we're at 14, creates another area where we can provide landscaping on the property and eliminates or adds to the green area that that would be part of improving the overall site on the property. If we go to the next one, please. So this shows the existing rooftops on the what are just the mechanicals on the commercial buildings, and on the right showing how much we're setting it back from Davenport and making it and surrounding it with acoustical equipment so that it would provide the acoustic treatment that would not affect the so that the noise would not affect the residential property owners. We go to the next one, please.
On this one, Mr. Hegney, you show the number of parking spaces that you have between the covered and the surface, but you don't, I couldn't find anywhere what your calculation of the required was.
You know, I had submitted a chart last time. I didn't include it with this.
Okay, but it's a
as to
different
what the
building
parking
now.
demand is.
But it's a different building now, so it would be different. So you're saying, isn't it great? We got 116 total parking spaces, of which 95 are covered and 21 are surface, but we don't know with the new structure. I mean, it's just a minor point right now, but it just struck me that it's not on this chart, whereas with other stuff, well, actually with the other stuff, you have existing and proposed, and you don't show the zoning there either on your other charts, which to us is always helpful to have it all together. Just as a point of, you know, if you were going to do this again, it's helpful for us to have it together.
Yeah.
But while you're breathing, because we're seeing, I mean, we've seen this. I mean, you're just going to quickly talk about while you took a breath. I guess you want to show us the building too. Do you want to go to your last one and show us the building, and then we can start talking?
Just to touch on the points here. Currently, there are 9 driveways, 5 on the east side of Davenport, 1 on the north, and then 3 on the on Steamboat Road. Our plan previously had 4 curb cuts, 2 on Steamboat, 2 on the north side of Davenport, and this plan just has 2 curb cuts. Which is one of the things that the DPW had brought up as part of their comments. So we're also providing greater green space, as you can see on this one. When I did do the parking analysis chart for the previous application, we were currently at about 57% of the required parking under the zoning, under the guidelines for parking and the regulations. And with the spaces as shown, we're at, we would be at 75.8% of what's required. And again, it's to make it more conforming than what exists currently on site. The other thing, which was part of your preliminary decision, was doing a parking study. And fortunately, we have a very good example of a office building with 100,000 square feet and parking. I think it's a 220 associated with it. And we would do an analysis of that by our traffic engineer to determine whether on a proportional basis there would be adequate parking on this site. So that is one of the things that we will bring back to you. It's not part of what we're presenting to you this afternoon. And the next slide just shows the underground parking or covered parking, showing that it's substantially greater than what was there before. And if we can go to the last slide, or next to the last, I was thinking next to the last first. Well, that's just the GIS that I tend to put on every application or at every presentation. So this is the east side of the property. You can see that there's a ample space to provide screening. But what this doesn't necessarily show in the slide just before it shows is that we're stepping the building back both on the east side and on the south side so that it's 2 stories rather than 3. If we could go back to that last slide. Great, thanks. And you can see the refuse storage building on the left-hand side. There would be a 1-story building that would be used either for as conference space or as a gym space. And then you can see how the building drops down on the east side, and it also does on the south, so that there's less of a profile to the office building on the residential side of the building.
Okay,
And,
can we take this down now?
Sure.
I mean, okay. I think you've got at least one hand up. Okay. So, Madam Jenkins.
Yes. Mr. Hegney, first of all, thank you very much for the thoroughness of this presentation. It was much clearer to me exactly what was going on in each of the parcels with this presentation. And again, the design seems to be to answer some of the questions that were raised in our preliminary decisions, certainly the height and the setback issues. And it also seems to be very sensitive to the neighbors on Davenport. And to the extent that I can make a positive comment on this, that's all it's excellent because it shows a sensitivity to the neighborhood, which we always feel is part of our mission. As you can imagine, I'm going to raise the same issue now that I raised the last time we discussed this, which is that you are using nonconformity to obtain benefits that don't seem to be provided for in the law of nonconformity, particularly because you are reducing the nonconformities by creating new nonconformities. So let me just begin with an example. Let's start with 48 Davenport. The proposed building is still nonconforming. So what you have on that particular parcel is it may be, quote, better in terms of the numbers, but it is a new non-conforming building on that property. So, gee, it doesn't have a problem that the old building had, but the old building is what's protected under nonconformity. What existed when it became nonconforming is protected. So what you're doing is you're moving to a new location on that property and creating a new non-conforming building. So while it may solve some problems, it seems to me that you are doing it in a manner that's not anticipated by the preservation of nonconformity. And each of the properties, each of the parcels, as you discuss them, has the same problem to the extent that you are moving volume, which is protected as non-conforming where it currently exists, and that's exactly what the state law and our regulation provides, and moving it around. So each of the parcels has a new nonconformity that solves some of your existing protected nonconformity, but creates new ones. And as you can imagine, we hesitate strongly to allow any applicant to create a new nonconformity simply because the law hates nonconformities. So the individual,
yeah. Go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, I might as well finish and then you can answer completely. I continue to have.
Your sound went dead. Your sound went dead. Okay, you continue to have the issue and then your sound went dead.
I'm here, not here.
Okay, you're here. Yeah, you're here
Oh,
now. Okay,
okay.
keep talking. You continue to have the issue and we lost you.
Okay. Yeah, I continue to have issues with respect to particularly the fact that the new building is again using nonconformity volume from other buildings that you're moving to a new location. And I still have not been able to find legal authority that you can take benefits of nonconformity and reuse them in a different location. So I think I'm saying, congratulations, it's a beautiful design, but the legal issues of using the benefits of nonconformity appear to me to be the same they were last time.
The reason.
Go ahead. I've got another one. But go ahead.
Okay, the reason I went through with each property is because when we discussed the last application, there was concern that we were taking nonconformities from one of the parcels and moving it to another. And what we're demonstrating through the 5 separate parcels is that we were actually making them more conforming as to that particular parcel, that it had less square footage, it had less volume, it met setbacks, it met height, and as it does as a whole, but it does also on each of those parcels.
But so
we are maintaining our nonconformities in some respect, but improving all of them.
Again, my point would be that the nonconformity that's protected is what exists, not the if you will, not the dimensions or anything, but what exists now. So if we go back to 48 Davenport, you have a new building on 48 Davenport. That building is not protected from nonconformity because it is a new building. It is not a change to the existing nonconforming building that's protected. If you, and again, from a design point of view, you're answering the question. You got the setback, and now that's terrific. But the problem is the new building is now a nonconforming building, and we're not supposed to allow the creation of new nonconformities. And it appears that that's what's happening.
I guess under Section 8-2 of the statutes, I believe that we're allowed to maintain nonconformities, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same as what it is. We are looking at each of those nonconformities.
He's agreeing with you that you can keep the nonconformity.
It's not,
but it's not like I have to build a single family house of similar dimensions as what exists there. I am taking what is currently a nonconformity and I am making it more conforming, which the law does encourage, but it also, the law now is you get to keep nonconformities. It's not that you have to eliminate them.
But Mr. Hagerty, I'm sorry. The point is that what is protected is what exists, not, again, I hate to use this, but it's not a coupon. You can't take it and use the non-conforming characteristics of a non-conforming structure and put it somewhere else on the property. It's not my understanding that that's what is protected is we cannot come in and make you change something that's non-conforming, and you can reduce the not existing non-conforming. But I've been unable to find any legal authority that you can go, well, I have X square feet of house that are non-conforming and I'm moving part of the property, and it's going to be less non-conforming there property.
And And if I could, in addition to agreeing with Mary, and you can't make the argument, Mr. Hegney, that she's taking an existing nonconformity away. She's saying, yes, you can keep the nonconformity, but you can't move it around to other buildings, to other places. I have a simpler question, which is your existing office use is non-conforming in its total square footage. Just looking at holistically at the property, and you have the 29,575, that's not conforming in terms of total square footage. Okay, and you're expanding that nonconformity across all the lots to 37,164, plus you would add potentially the 2,000 square foot of storage, which is office related. So you're at 39,000 when your 29,000 was already non-conforming. So boom, right there, you're going beyond the issue of moving it from lot to lot. You are expanding a non-conformity when you take the aggregate of the lots.
Yeah.
So much as, and look, we love where you've gone with the design. I shouldn't speak for you guys. Sorry, I make that mistake. It was just the royal we, just kidding. But I love the amount of green. I love the respect for Davenport. And even though I don't comment on architecture, I think you're making a huge effort to make it fit in better and all this. There's a lot of huge progress here, but I just don't see how you can expand. So there's two things. You're juggling around the nonconformity, and maybe the commission could get its brain around that. I don't know, Mary, if you could, but where I'm totally stuck is yes, but then you have an expansion of 10,000 square feet of nonconformity.
And that's because we're taking the industrial use as a nonconformity and we're going to something that is not more nonconforming under the language of 6141 and creating more office space.
You are becoming more nonconforming with more office space. That's an expansion. You are expanding the office space. The office space is nonconforming today, and you are making it more nonconforming. Yes, you're making it a somewhat nicer nonconformity, but you're expanding a nonconformity. And that isn't what 6141 says. It doesn't let you do that.
Actually, 6141 says you can go from one nonconforming use to another nonconforming use as long as it is not more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Bingo,
and that
but
was
you
why
can't
you asked.
expand.
I'm sorry, that's Mr. Hegney, that's a use discussion. We're discussing the dimensional nonconformities here. I don't, one nonconforming use and another nonconforming use, I don't have a problem with that. But what you're doing is you are now using the interchangeability of use based upon detrimental characteristics. I'm talking about you're building a bigger building than you're entitled to build because you are using dimensional characteristics of other non-conforming parts of your property. I totally understand your use arguments, but this isn't a use argument. This is a dimensional nonconformity argument.
You're expanding an existing nonconformity.
Through section 141, which deals with changing one nonconformity to another. Why would I eliminate my other nonconformity if I couldn't add it to something that is less nonconforming?
6141 says you can switch to a nonconformity that's a lesser egregious whatever nonconformity. It doesn't say, and then you have the right to add 10,000 square feet of nonconformity somewhere else. It doesn't say that. Because why? Because we don't expand on nonconformities. I mean, we'd love to be supportive of this. I would love to be supportive of this because I think you're making huge headway, but I'm really stuck on the expansion of the office use.
Yeah, if we can't have something similar to what we have on site now, this project doesn't work from a financial standpoint. So that's why we have taken this approach. We thought that with the work that we've done to address the comments that were part of the preliminary decision, that The concern was we were moving nonconformities from one parcel to another. And that's why I went through with each of the 5 pieces to show that each of them was either going to be conforming or more conforming to the current
Okay.
regulations.
I'm coming, Patrick. It was not the only concern we raised. It's the one you focused on, but it's not the only
Well,
one. I went back and I looked at the letter. And again, there's this issue of the maximum amount of office space being non-conforming, and you're increasing the non-conformity. Patrick? You're muted, but it was great.
Mr. Hegney, I don't know if you want to expand on that thought that you just said about the infeasibility. So if I'm understanding correctly, you have a 41,000 square foot buildings on the property. You're in this proposal, you're seeking to ask for 39. The existing office space is 37. So are you saying that losing 36,000 square feet in the ultimate layout of the building would make it infeasible for your client?
Well, I'm hearing a couple of things. One is I'm hearing you don't get more than a 0.5 FAR. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but if I'm not going to tear the buildings down as they are and rebuild them just where they are, because that doesn't make any sense.
You
and
were
that
saying at
wouldn't
a
be a way you
0.5,
develop this.
at a 0.5, that's a problem, not okay.
0.5 is the problem. If we were going to 37,000 square feet, that is certainly workable.
Okay.
We think that adding in the
But
storage
you're not
part
going
of
to
it,
39,000, you're going to 39,000 square feet in total, of which 37,164 is office. And you are expanding the office nonconformity, which is already 29,575.
and the regulations provide for that in 6141.
No, they allow you to change the use, Mr. Hegney. We keep covering the same ground. They allow you to change the use. They do not allow you to expand a nonconformity. You are expanding an existing nonconformity. In the end, Mr. Hegney, you are expanding a nonconformity. You can sigh all you want, but that's what you're doing. I mean,
It's not sighing, Madam Chair. I'm confused because I don't see how reading 6141 doesn't allow you to go from one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use. And the non-conforming use, as the commission has stated, is that you can only have 10,000 square feet of office in the GB zone. But I can't have industrial use either. So I'm taking my industrial use, I'm getting rid of that because it is the office use would be not more detrimental to the neighborhood, which is the standard that the 6141 has in it. And I am making that office. There's, say, as Pat was saying, there's the same square footage there. And we're getting rid of obnoxious industrial use and creating office use with less curb cuts, no garage doors facing the residential neighborhood, and a building that is set much farther back than what is there now. I would hope that the commission could find some way to support something where it actually improves the property in a substantial way. It improves the conditions within the neighborhood itself. There's got to be some way that the commission can reach a positive conclusion that you're doing something really good on the property. We need to find a way to do that, not a way to say no.
okay, the problem is we also can't break our own regulations. So it isn't us finding a way to say yes, because we're going to just ignore our regulations. You've got to convince us somehow, and feel free to write a brief on it, that our regulations are not being violated, because we cannot break our regulations. Mary, then Peter Lowe.
Yeah, I think Madam Chair just said what I was preparing to say, which is, again, I understand, and I'm, as Madam Chair said, I'm also in favor of this, and it's definitely an improvement, and I like the fact that there is concern for the neighborhood. But if our regulations ignore nonconformities when it's really attractive and really good for the neighborhood and everybody wants to do it and it's financially sound, that puts us in a position of, gee, if we get ourselves really comfortable and we do, next time we see it, we're going to have a problem. We're going to create a situation in which if we like the building well enough, we're going to totally ignore the limitations of nonconformity. And nonconformity couldn't be any more factually complex than it is with this application. Again, I love the design. I wish this was a design issue, but from my point of view, it's dealing with the nonconformity, legal limitations of nonconformity that are set in our regulations. It's not personal. It's not, it really is. I'm struggling to try to make this work as well, Mr. Hegney, but 6141 is very happy when you change one non-conforming use to a less non-conforming use. We are talking about volume here. We're talking about dimensions and not uses. And I think I've said
and of course, having gone through all of each of the properties, we're reducing the square footage and we're reducing volume in a significant way. You know, we're 60,000 cubic feet less volume with what we're proposing than what's there right now.
So Peter Lowe, just one more thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to let you, Chuck. The other thing is, Mr. Hegney, one of the things that concerns me is precedent setting here, because you're making this great argument and then boom, we are now allowing, in where we previously limited the amount of space, you're saying we can just go, oh yeah, 37,000 square feet plus the storage. So 39,000 square feet of office space is allowed in a building in that zone. Peter Lowe, go ahead. I mean, it's a dangerous precedent. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, meaning both commissioners. Just a question for Mr. Hegney. Do you disagree with the continuing dimensional nonconformity that is present in this current design?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get the question, Mr. Lowe.
Do you disagree that there is a continuing dimensional nonconformity with the current design as proposed?
I think the current design is more conforming. It conforms to height
Actually,
and setbacks,
if you could just,
and then
I've
more
heard you say that before. We're talking about, and you've talked continually about use nonconformities. And I'm asking really, I'm trying to get the yes or no. And that is, do you disagree that there is a continuing dimensional nonconformity with the current proposal?
Yes, I do disagree.
Okay.
We're taking each of the properties and we're saying on a dimensional basis, we are going to be more conforming than the structure, forget about the use, than the structure that is there now.
Well, this seems like
on that particular parcel.
Pretty simple arithmetic in terms of resolving this.
I agree. And that's why we went through and made those charts for each of the parcels to show that each one would be more conforming with what we're proposing than what exists now.
So I tell you what, Mr. Hegney, why don't you give us a brief citing the case law that gives you the ability to say this, then how you're not expanding, you're not expanding an existing nonconformity, and if you can find a way of demonstrating to us that this is not an expansion. Your concept of you're swapping out a greater nonconformity, and that enables you to expand another nonconformity is, I don't see the logic in it. I would need to read some case law. Not my strength, but I'll do it.
But it also, you do have the authority to go from one non-conforming use to another within your own regulations under 6141.
Not
and
if
under
I'm creating
states,
if I'm expanding another nonconformity. I just don't see that. I don't
yeah, that's
see
the whole
that it gives
idea
you
that's
the,
of that
not if you're-
regulation, that you're going from one that is
Not-
non-conforming to another that's non-conforming.
But the
That's the whole
assumption
idea of
is
that
not-
regulation.
but where you're trying not to grasp what I'm saying is that the existing office use is already also non-conforming and you're expanding it, and that's where I'm struggling. It doesn't say you can then expand another non-conformity. That's where I'm stuck. I'm sorry, I think we're at a dead end unless you give us a brief. I mean, that's what we need, and I mean, you got to show us why you think you're right and why you think that can be applied this way. We laud the effort of the applicant. We definitely think this is the right direction, but we would want to see you.
But we feel hamstrung by the regulation, and that's
not hamstrung.
Well,
It's
but
our
I'm just
job.
saying that that is our charge, is to follow the regulations.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're happy to keep having it. I think the easiest
All
thing
right.
is
You know, I appreciate your comments and that
send us
you
something
do
and
see
come
this as an
back.
improvement.
Yes, I think the
but
commission, I think I heard a lot of favorable comments,
Yeah.
especially from Mary, who seems to really love your building, but she's expressed some doubts about the zoning. So the thing is, can you give us something and come back for another discussion? Don't bring all the drawings with us. We've looked at them already.
Okay. Well, I wanted to go through the drawings because I thought it was extremely important to show how on each of the parcels we were making either conforming or we were making it more conforming.
Yeah, and it's always hard for people to know that they can trust us to read the stuff that they've sent, because sometimes when stuff comes in late, maybe we didn't. So, okay.
Well, it's
let me
not all
see
that
if-
simple.
I believe you may have some comment from the public, so let me just see. Does anybody from the public, Mr. Levinson? Mr. Levinson, and then iPhone HMS, and we'll just need to call you something. And Mr. Levinson, go ahead, then iPhone HMS, and then Betsy Williams. If you would unmute, Mr. Levinson.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Now we can hear you.
Sorry. I want to go back to the issue of sound emanating from the roof of the building. This has been an issue for 5 years. We've had Berkeley representatives promise both the board and me personally and other neighbors that they were going to put a sound baffle up. They were going to change the units on the roof, which are very noisy, and nothing has happened. And I always take the collegial approach, but it doesn't work in this case. They keep coming back with just it's not they're not in violation. If you stood 4 feet from the front entrance to Berkeley, you would get close to 0 sound reading. I live 400 feet directly across Smith Cove from the building, and the police and Wendy, I think her last name is Chow, have come up to my deck and in the driveway and measured in the mid-60s. So they are in violation. Just that technically, I guess, the code isn't written in a way that makes sense. But can you imagine living with that every summer and
I know. And the sad thing is, you heard us say this, Mr. Levinson, the problem is at each application, we can only talk about the specific application, but we cheated anyway and talked about your noise issue because we've been hearing it. I've been hearing you guys talk about it for years. And so I broke the rules and we all went ahead and said something. I don't know if you were listening early on. And we said, okay, so we're not supposed to do that because that building is not before us right now. And we can only look at the application that is before us. But we know you have an issue. So we reminded Mr. Hegney that y'all hate the noise.
Yeah, and I don't think they care. But I'll go away.
Thank you, Mr. Levinson, for coming. Don't say you have to go, you'll go away. Come back anytime.
Okay, bye now.
iPhone HMS. All righty. And then after that is Betsy Williams and then C. Sandon. iPhone HMS, if you would go ahead, and Betsy Williams, I'm going to get you ready.
Right.
Hello,
Hello.
iPhone HMS. Yeah.
Hi, this is Harold Stillman.
Oh, Mr. Stillman, hello. We got
Right.
your email.
Right, I'm out on my deck looking at the WR Berkeley building. I think you can see it.
Yep.
And the sun is directly where the new buildings will be on Davenport. So I'll make this relevant to the new proposal. This is where noise measurements are made because the noise ordinance, which I'll make it relevant, I promise. You can see over there, the property line is at the bottom of the building. The noise is at the rooftop, and the noise measurement is only 4 feet above grade. It's completely shielded from the building. That's the way the noise ordinance is written. And that's how Mr. Hegarty can say the first selectman's office came out and measured, and we're not in violation. But over here, it's 55 to 60 dBA because you can see the rooftop. Now, let's make it relevant. When this new building will be built, they won't make the noise measurement on the ground. They'll make it through calculations performed by an expert acoustician who will take the readings of the equipment and project what the sound will be emitted from the rooftop towards the various residential buildings and the hotel that's across there. And those will be maybe accurate, maybe inaccurate, and you will give them a permit you'll pass on those. Then it comes to the question of enforcement. What happens when neighbors complain that the noise is too loud? You will be taking noise measurements 4 feet off the ground in the shadow of the noise, and you won't see a violation. Now, these condominiums over here will be subject to the noise emissions from the building rooftop, okay? And what will happen is that WR Berkeley will say, well, we took the readings at our property line 4 feet above, and it's conforming. Yet the people in the building will discover that the noise exceeds their tolerance. So this needs to be taken into consideration when you go to the next step. And you will. Somehow you'll find a way. But the noise will resonate from that building off the side of the large building, reverberate across the Oneida Preserve over here to Mr. Levinson's house, the Bruce Park Playground over here, and we will be subject to more noise.
So Mr. Stillman.
Yes.
I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner. If we send you the town noise ordinance, would you be willing to revise the wording and send it back to us? I am willing to submit it to the representative town meeting as a zoning, just as a citizen, or you can do that too. But the first thing is, what is passing the noise test, you believe should not be. And it is not a zoning matter, except that we say it has to comply with the town noise ordinance, because that's done by the Board of Selectmen. How would you feel if we sent it to you and y'all redrafted it? Because you know a lot about this. You redraft it, and I guarantee that we will submit it to the RTM.
I will do that. It should look like the lighting ordinance. The lighting ordinance is very detailed.
Lighting is us.
Yeah,
Lighting
but look,
is us.
there's
Yeah.
the lights coming off the building.
Okay.
and the tide is
Mr. Stillman, we do lighting. Lighting is zoning.
Right.
Noise is not zoning. I know that's crazy weird to understand that.
First selectman.
Yeah, but any citizen can submit to the legislative town body.
RTM more correctly, Mr. Stillman. Yeah, but yes, I understand
Yeah.
your point.
So we can submit it, and if you don't want to do it, we'll help you do we can do it. I can go to the RTM and I can say, I'm a private citizen and I want to change the noise ordinance.
Thank you for your assistance. I will
Okay, so
definitely take the draft.
we will send you, one of us will send you the link and read the noise ordinance in the code of ordinances. And that, I think, is a lot of the stuff that's bothering you. And we can just go forward and say, hey, we're zoning and we're hearing from the neighbors. And it's not our lane, but here we are in it.
Yeah, I know the noise ordinance backwards and forwards.
Perfect. Send us a rewording. I'm happy to go to the RTM. It's just so much fun speaking in front of 230 people.
Sure. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Williams.
Hi, I'm Michael Kramer. I'm using my wife's computer again.
Oh,
As
okay.
always. So I guess my biggest problem starts at parking again, because parking's still really not addressed because it's a tremendous problem in that neighborhood. And everybody knows it. The police have known about it for years. The building, it's a large glass building. It looks like an office park.
I know.
I mean, everything in our neighborhood is masonry, bricks, except
know.
for that. And we get this huge thing. And I'm going to get reflective light in my buildings because I own 23 and 25, which concern me. And then on page 11 that they displayed, they show these huge plants, 2.5 stories tall. And when you read his schedule for plantings, he has 7-foot shrubs. So it's very misleading. As a resident, I mean, it looked great
Okay.
in his schedule, but it's a bait and switch. And then as far as everyone talks about industrial, there's been no industrial work on that property in more than 18 years.
I know, but the
But
problem
how
is
does it still apply? Paul Jones
because-
renovated it.
Okay,
He
so this
renovated
is
the property.
crazy. I'm sorry, sir. This is this crazy state law
Yeah,
that
this
if
is
you
interesting.
had a use that existed on a property, even if you're not doing it, it still exists. It's crazy, and you have it protected. When the law passed in 2017, I went nuts, and so did the staff. We all went crazy because it's like, why isn't this? This has been abandoned. Why do we have to pretend it still exists? And the law specifically says you have to pretend it still exists.
Because the Margonaut family certainly abandoned it
Yeah.
to make money.
I
Paul
know,
Jones
I
renovated
get
the.
it, but the state law is weird. I hope nobody from the state house is
So
listening.
basically you can lie. That's what you're telling me.
No,
True
it
lie. It is
says
a
it
lie.
doesn't, no,
It
it
is.
doesn't say, wait, it doesn't say you can lie. What it says is, it doesn't matter whether you've discontinued it or not. As long as you were doing it at some point, you can keep doing it. It's bizarre.
It's
And
more
it,
than bizarre.
it's
more-
really strange. We don't, and we were very upset because it was one of those changes that came into the state law right at the last minute. And when they give us our assignment, we're supposed to reduce nonconformities. That's the task of planning and zoning commissions. And then they made it almost impossible for us to do our job. Patrick, do you want to add something?
Well,
from
can I
Mr.
ask you
Freeman?
something? When they talk
Yeah.
about, so how about like the house that's on the corner? Because that's a 2-family house. So does that affect parking or not? Because it's not really listed that way. They talk about a 1-family house.
If it is a 2-family and it's used as a 2-family, then it's a 2-family.
Because it's always been a 2-family house.
Yeah, so then it's an existing 2-family.
Okay.
It's again, it's legally non-conforming 2-family. Patrick, what did you want to say?
I think the way that the state interprets their adoption
He's
of
gonna say it nicer than I did it.
No,
It's
no,
okay.
no, you didn't. You said it very politely. It's that they are precluding towns from taking the non-conforming use away from a property owner in other circumstances, and that's what they see is that they're protecting
And-
the property owner. They're not looking at it as a a give back to a developer or anything like that. It's that the municipality is not overstepping, and that's why
So-
the guards.
So, Mr. Creamer, that's why we were so careful when we were talking to Mr. Hagney to make sure he knew we were not taking away his existing nonconformity, because we can't take it away because the state doesn't let us do that. That's what's weird.
It's
But
just
anyway,
weird though how but like his plantings, he shows these gorgeous plants.
well,
and-
they'll be big eventually.
And I'll be dead by then too. But I mean,
Don't you dare.
yeah, there's realities here. I mean, I'm the
Don't you
oldest
dare.
resident on Davenport Avenue. I've been there 40 years. I've lived with the ironworks. I've lived with it all. And I lived with Berkeley, and I still do. I mean,
Well, you look great on Zoom.
yeah, isn't it scary what makeup does? Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. All right, the last speaker from the public is C. Sandin. Go ahead, please unmute.
Yes, hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Hi there. Thanks so much for the public comment, and I'd like to thank and echo the previous speakers too, and also for the general tone of adherence for the laws. This is very refreshing. I've reviewed the materials too, and I'd like to add a couple of comments. My concern, although I understand this is in a pre-application phase, I'd like to voice from now and all the way through the project that there be sufficient traffic and debris management plans during both construction and when the project is completed. And I understand that some of this is also building, but the different town departments can and should frankly work together in this case to ensure that the final product and the process of getting there is both conforming and respectful of the nearby residents in the neighborhood and other businesses in the hotel, et cetera. So number one is the traffic and debris management plan, both during construction and post-completion. Also, worker parking, especially during construction. That building looks like it will probably include many different tradespeople, and currently there's already some parking shortages on Davenport and Steamboat, and so I'm curious how this will be considered. We talked about lighting and light pollution to impact the residents of Davenport Cove.
So lighting will be good because we've got new lighting regulations that are much stricter. Parking, we're asking him about, and we're going to work on.
Great.
They're currently non-conforming to parking, and I have a feeling that they're still non-conforming, but they're going to reduce the non-conformity. If I know kind of where this is headed, but we are concerned about parking in the area. Most of us spend some time in your neighborhood.
Yes.
And we know that parking can get really tight. So we're
Great.
aware of that. And there will be phasing plans, and it's a good idea, given the proximity of the Delamar as well. It's a good idea to make sure that it's coordinated, because boy, when the Delamar gets hopping,
That's right.
and it gets
Yep.
hopping during the day. So those are all
And
great
Island
points
Beach
there.
Ferry and the train station. I
Yeah,
mean, it really
great
is,
points.
the center of town. And
Yeah.
then also adding fans and utility and the noise-making device. We discussed that. Construction time slots during the day, and also there will probably be significant damage to town of Greenwich and hopefully not, but some property. So curbs, sidewalks, things like that. And so the other issue of the noise and the light, and the Berkeley as a neighbor is, our neighbors who are who they are, and another individual in the Davenport Cove Association has expressed via email that she is concerned about the way that Berkeley currently handles the landscaping and the ivy that's taking over the trees. And I don't want to make this about the ivy, but I do want to make this
No,
about
I did mention this to Mr. Hegney, that your neighbor had written in and said, oh, it's great that they're going to add more trees on Davenport, but they're not taking good enough care of the existing trees. I did
Right.
mention that
So
earlier to Mr. Hegney.
yes, but just to add to that, it's not about the trees or the ivy per se, but it's also about the neighborly relations and neighborly behavior, and we want a high level of that, including complete compliance with written plans every step along the way. And so my request to P&Z is to ensure that there are detailed written plans which show explicit consideration for these particular issues, and then also landscaping too. That's a good point. To have to go into the fine print and look at the plant and then look up on another table what the anticipated height is of the plant. I would hope we can avoid that by having transparent and again clearly written
We
plans that
do. So
consider all this.
we do. So we have a whole process. They come in with the application, they give us detailed site plans, et cetera, et cetera. And then before they get a building permit, so we approve the overall application. Then
Yes.
before anybody gets a permit to build, Patrick and the staff make sure that every single piece is in place from every department. So the drainage is right, the parking, the sewer, everything gets looked at before somebody, everything is in detail. I would almost tell you the opposite. There's almost too much paper and too much detail sometimes, but that does happen in town. But
Certainly.
it's always good to keep double checking.
Certainly. Well, then, thank you.
Thank you.
To the entire commission for your attention to detail on this. And I think these comments have also been emailed to Mr. LaRoe to be included in the record
In the
as well.
public record. Thank you very much, Mr. Sandin.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Okay. All right. So Mr. Hegney, come back and talk to us, send us a brief and with case law, and come back and talk to us whenever you want. And a discussion item again, and you don't really have to submit anything else. Let's just have another conversation.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. All righty. I think I'm allowed to do this. I hereby move approval of the December 10th, 2024 minutes, the December 17th, 2024 minutes, and the January 22nd, 2025 minutes. Can I do them all? at
Second.
once? Tracy didn't shake her head, so I
As
figure I'm
long as
good.
everybody was there and it was voting on it. Yeah.
Yeah, Yeski is the only one who was out. It's good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, and now we're done.
Adios.